going on, family? Let me go ahead and introduce our panel today. We got Miss Kelly, Alicia, Clap Jones, Luis, me, myself, and Lapeef, JR. What's going on, family? How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
Good evening.
Good evening. Is it good evening or good afternoon?
Evening.
Evening.
Okay.
7 o'clock.
Okay, so anything after 7 o'clock is considered evening.
I want to say anything after 6.
6. Yeah.
After 6.
It's evening when I'm
Okay. I always say evening when it's dark. And I know it's evening, but to each his own. Anyhow, good to see you guys, man. Hopefully you guys are having an amazing Wednesday. Let me go ahead and get the housekeeping out the way. Shout out to the sponsor, T. Chanley, Uncomplicated Skincare for Men, 40% off, along with a free gift. And if you become a member, you get 20% off for life. We also got the Assured Man, King on top. This is for your beard. So if your beard is patchy, not connecting, if your lady is saying it's too brittle, too hard, you might want to go ahead and get this 4-pack right here. This is going to get you right. This is going to promote the growth, all the healthy ingredients you need. And this is what is going to get that beard together. Let's make sure we get our beards in order, gentlemen. With that being said, the like button, also make sure you subscribe to the channel. I appreciate everybody that's coming in. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Also make sure you subscribe to the channel as you guys come in. We got an excellent show here for you guys. This is one of the shorter shows. If you guys are here for the first time, I am starting the live stream on Wednesdays, just to give a little something for people to enjoy. With that being said, let's go ahead and get it started, man. You guys seen this topic trending, right? There's no single woman above 30 who is happy being single. No matter how you pretend to be, deep down, you want a man. Curious what the gentleman gonna say first, man. Do you think that's a true statement, Luis? There's no single woman above 30 who is happy being single?
I mean, I think that there are very far and few women who are actually happy being single above 30. I think there's a larger cohort who's rather having a difficult time, being single, because obviously the holidays are approaching. You have those family times, right? Obviously, you just got through the summer going to those family reunions, barbecues, and people being outside, and they're wondering, where's your significant other? Where's your person? Where's that individual that you spent quality time with, and they're not really around. So you always have family and close friends to always remind you, why are you single?
Okay.
That also adds a certain level of pressure in itself.
All right. I'm gonna get your opinion on this. Clap Jones. There's no single woman above 30 who is happy being single. You agree with that?
I think it's a very nuanced question, but I think it's possible that they're over 30 that are single. But yeah, like Luis said, I do think that's probably on the minority scale, not on the majority scale.
All right, I'm gonna go to the ladies then, since we do have two lovely ladies on the panel. What are you guys' thoughts about that statement? Is it true? For women that are over 30, are they happy?
Well, as a woman over 30 that's single, I'm happy. I think there are times where I have low moments, but they're not necessarily because I'm single. I think there's no such thing as just like finding a relationship and then that making you happy. Like life is, like you said, there is definitely nuanced, and there's so many other things going on in life other than having a man to be up under. So, and I would say I know more women than probably a lot of men do. Some of them are married and some of them are single, and I don't really see a huge gap in contentment between the two at all. So I guess I'm saying it's false. It's a stretch for sure to say most.
I'm gonna go to you, Kelly. What are your thoughts about that? Think it's true? Women over the age of 30 are unhappy. Hold on, you on mute. Let me unmute you. There you go.
I think there are a lot of women over 30 who are happy, whether they've been married and divorced, whether they never got married, whether they never had kids. I think there are women that are happy, and I think that's because sorry, they are whole alone, right? They feel complete alone because maybe their career fills them up, maybe their family fills them up. But I think that's such a narrow-minded statement to say. Like, let me go over it. There's no single women above 30 who is happy being single, no matter how you pretend to be. Deep down, you want a man. Some people have been in relationships with men who have hurt them, and they don't want to be hurt again. Same thing with men. So no, I think women who don't center their lives around men can be happy without a man. That doesn't mean that they don't appreciate human contact or that they wouldn't appreciate a relationship, but I can't agree with that 100%.
I mean, one of the things that I understand, like you know, another person isn't going to fulfill you, right? You need to be whole yourself, and you need to be able to fulfill yourself, right? You need to be, you need to be able to make yourself happy. Someone coming into your life isn't going to make you happy necessarily. They'll bring a level of excitement, a level of enjoyment, especially with conversations and things that you have in common. And honestly, ultimately, this whole thing boils down to is about sharing quality times and quality moments in this thing that we call life. You know, that's really what it's about. You know,
Correct.
having somebody there that is your, excuse me, having somebody is there who's a rock and that you can depend on and that you can lean on and that you can have conversations with. At times, to you know, to Alicia's point, you come home after a long day and it's probably stressful. Somebody cut you off, you probably got into an accident, whatever the case may be. Coming home, knowing somebody is there to share that experience about what happened through your day, and knowing that they're there to listen to you and they're there to pour into you, and that they have your best interest at heart, you can't beat that. There's only so much, you know, quote unquote, being alone, you know, can only fulfill. And yes, you have your community of people, whether that's your sisters, whether that's your close friends, you know, support group, whatever the case may be. But that level of intimacy and that level of intimacy and conversation with that significant other, you know what I'm saying, goes much more further. And it feels like you're building a bond that is worth fighting for and much well worth pouring into.
Companionship.
I think with everything you said, yes, right? That sounds great. I wouldn't even say that that's the case for people in relationships right now. Like, I don't know, like that's an idealistic perspective of a relationship and having someone to come home to and all of that. I think it's probably a lot more difficult for people in relationships, especially like communication is like probably the number one thing that breaks people up. And I think though it would be nice, I don't think realistically like that is something that you'll automatically have just because you have a mate. But also, there are some people that don't want to be bothered after a long day. Like, who's to say that there's no validity in that? Like, being able to come home and not have to hear nobody's mouth, not have to cook for nobody, being able to decompress alone without being asked what's wrong is very, very peaceful. But I guess that would be relative to who you ask. For me personally, yes, I would love somebody to come home to confide in and all of those other things. But there's so much more that goes into a healthy relationship. Who's to say that we're even on good terms that day? Like,
Yeah, but you know what is it? You know what is so interesting? We can make the argument that today we're more interconnected than ever before in history, in terms of how we communicate, whether it's through Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, video calls, etc. But yet we are still so disconnected from one another, right? And you brought up communication, and I wonder why that is. Why is there such a great breakdown in communication? You know, like it can't be that difficult that we've somehow became so really good at communicating with one another for decades and decades on, and then we get to this sort of pivotal moment in our modern age, and then all of a sudden the communication just suffers.
What I think it is that in becoming more connected with the world around us, I think people have become more disconnected with themselves. So the inability to communicate is coming from the fact that they don't even know themselves. They don't know what their desires, what their wants are. They don't know how they would want something communicated to them. They haven't thought of a scenario or even have time to ponder on it, because everybody's always so busy being connected kind of to like a hive mind. It's something happening on Instagram, there's something happening on YouTube, there's something happening on Facebook, there's something happening in the group chat, there's something happening at work around them. And I think just being so interconnected with everyone else, it's hard to even form a solid opinion, like, or even form a solid idea on your own, because everywhere you are, you're constantly being bombarded by someone else's perspective. So I think it's less that we're more connected. I mean, less that we like don't know how to connect with each other. I think we don't know how to disconnect. And like we're at a point now where it's like, all right, even when I think about my parents growing up, my mother always tells me that during the day, her and my dad didn't talk because cell phones weren't a thing. So they didn't talk. They weren't thinking. They might've been thinking about each other, but the idea of reaching out to communicate to one another during the day wasn't even something they thought about unless there was an emergency. Whereas today you have people who will end a relationship because you didn't talk to them today. You get what I'm saying? Like, meaning like they'll be like, oh, wow, you didn't text me today. You clearly don't have any interest in this relationship, or you're clearly not putting in effort. And it's like, now it's almost become a crime to retreat to yourself. Like I was watching one of the episodes from the other night, and someone was talking, the guy was talking, it was a couple, and what they were talking about doesn't matter, but I guess he had a feeling about something and he didn't respond. He didn't tell her right away. Maybe it took a little time before his feelings came out. And they were like saying how that's so selfish of him. And I'm like, what kind of world are we living in where a person doesn't even, it's not even okay to take time away to process your feelings and thoughts. And I think that's a consequence of how interconnected we are. We don't even respect people's personal space. Like, how could you not post the pictures? How could you like that's weird that you're not posting the pictures. How are you not sharing your thoughts? And it's like, you know, I think that's where we're lost at. People need a little bit more space to be able to connect with themselves.
I don't play this video, Kevo, and then we'll get back to the convo.
On the internet, this woman said there's no single woman above 30 who is happy being single. No matter how you pretend to be, deep down, you want a man. Now, I can only speak for the single homegirls that I know, but a lot of them are not pretending. They are legitimately happy, content, fulfilled in their singleness. Deep down, they want to go to Turks and Caicos. Deep down, they're plotting on Bora Bora. They want to go to the Maldives. They're going to be in Vegas or Miami. They be linking up, y'all. They be planning trips, and it makes it out of the group chat, and they be doing TikToks. They be on boats. They be twerking. They be having the time of their life. A lot of them have peace. They wanted a man before, or they done been through some stuff with men. They be like, you know, if it comes, it comes. If it don't, it don't. Okay? They be like, if a man comes and make my life better, fine. But if he gonna come mess with my whole situation, I got my whole routine. I go to work, I come home, I have dinner, I soak my tub, I read my book, I watch my program, whatever. My grandma is over 30. She ain't had no man in 30, 40 years. She is happy. All she want to go to is the council and the convention, and she want to go to Ireland one time. Trust me, she ain't worried about no man like that. I'm trying to tell you, it'd be hard to believe, but people be happy. They don't be pretending. They be legitimately like, I'm good, really good. But ladies, if you're single and above 30, let me hear from you. Are you deep down really wanting a man? Are you really happy?
So here's my thoughts about it, man. And I've talked to some women, I think that they come to a point where I don't think nobody wants to be alone. I think that's a decision they make based off the experience that they may have had from previous relationships and dealing with the opposite sex. So I think that they deep down they want to be with somebody, but because of the trauma and all the negativity and all the bad dealings within their relationship, they say, I'm choosing me. I'm choosing me. I want to be single. It's all about me. It's peace. But if you find yourself a good man or a good woman that doesn't come with all of that extra, then I think that the relationship would be healthy. But I don't even think they know what a healthy relationship looks like, and or they may have just given up on love for that time being. But the older they get, I think they start to see everybody else around them just steady moving with life. They're living life, experiencing, and then I think that that feeling of wanting to be with somebody comes right back around. Or maybe it's always been there, but they just been trying to rid that thought out of their head based off the pain that they've been experiencing. That's just my thoughts about it.
I think he made a great point. I think he made good points. I just think that the example he used was kind of counterproductive to his point. And I'll elaborate on that. Why I say it's a good point is like a lot of women have access to men in a way that they might not have had access to men in the past. So a single woman might not really be missing a certain amount of masculine energy in her life. Like she might still be going on dates. She might still be having sex. She might, like he said, she might be going on vacations, having a good time. So when it comes to those certain aspects of like excitement or romance that she might be looking for from a relationship, she might still have access to that. But where I would push back against what he was saying about the trips and vacations is I think that one could interpret that as escapism, and one could interpret that as a sign that they're actually not happy, that all the trips and all of the vacations and the brunches and all the drinks and the girls' trips are actually a way of them escaping being alone. And in escaping being alone, they really don't have the time to really sit and be like, hey, well, I want to be in a relationship, or I want a man right now, or I'd rather not be single because, well, I don't got time to think about that. I'm on the next jet. I'm in Bora Bora. Now I'm in Cancun. I'm in Costa Rica, so escapism is like comes in different forms. It comes in drugs, alcohol. And I don't think people really think of taking trips as escapism, but I think it's the same thing. And it might be one of the biggest forms of it, because on trips, what are most of these trips, when ladies say they need a vacation, some are talking about like going to a new place to discover the culture. Some are talking about, learning the foods and the languages. But I think I would say a good 65% of them are going to turn up. Like 65% of the time when you hear women saying that they're going on vacation, they're going to nightlife destinations that are known for their alcohol, known for weather conditions that allow you to be less clothed. They're known for, like heavy social environments, heavy single social environments. So I think if I put that pushback in, then we could say, okay, then maybe that's not a good example to use to say that, women are happy, over 30 are happy being single, because it's like, well, if we compare to older days, the vacation and traveling is higher than it's ever been before. Like being able to go on one vacation a year with your family in the 90s was considered like you are doing good in life. Like, like now most of these girls are taking 3-4 trips more than that a year. Like they're taking 4 to 5 trips a year, one every quarter. So it's like, well, you're not moving to these destinations. So what are you really escaping from? Like, what's so different on vacation than what would be at home? Why is your paradise not your day-to-day life? And that may not be because of a relationship specifically, but I think there's something to be said about the escapism. But I can't say it's necessarily because they're looking for a man. I'm just saying someone could use that as pushback, but I'll end there.
Can I say something? Okay. As someone that's traveled a little bit, and I get your point. Somebody could use that and say that's escapism, but like, have you lived in the United States? Are we all here? Like, everybody needs to escape from this place for their own mental health. But I think a lot of times when single women choose to do that, it's to live. I guarantee you it's not just escaping the fact that they're single, or I think what it is that they've discovered that there's more to life than their immediate surroundings in everyday life, and that like you have to enrich your life with these other things if you really want to enjoy it. Also, where else are you supposed to meet people if you sitting at home and all you do is go to work and come home and go to work and go to the grocery store and come home? That lessens your chances of meeting anybody special. I do understand like traveling, you not moving to these places, but you can meet somebody else that's traveling, which is a plus, because if that's what you like to do, meeting somebody else on a vacation is ideal. And that does happen a lot, like a lot. There are some people that are just simply adventurous. I know there are some people that are homebodies. But I think it's important that we remember, like, we're not monolithic and we all require different things. So a woman that has a thirst for traveling doesn't make her a whore, or doesn't make her, a commitment phobe. I think that's just the kind of guy she needs. And I mean, myself personally, I would prefer a guy that had a less conventional career, that also shared the same desire to explore other cultures, because that's something I genuinely enjoy. And I think a lot of women grow to learn that the more money they make, the older they get, they feel safer and more secure traveling alone, and they go out and see what's out there to offer.
All right. You want to add anything on there, Kelly?
Well, I feel like as a person who's enjoyed nightlife, traveling, and all those things, I think it's okay to live your life how you want to live it, because we came into this world alone. We're going to leave alone. So I don't think that you have to get permission from anybody to travel. And if you've experienced bad relationships, I wouldn't consider going on a trip or experiencing nightlife as escapism. It's just being free. Maybe you're choosing happiness over stress, happiness over depression, happiness over disappointment. I think that's more so the focus. And I don't feel like you have to stay in the city that you live in to live your life.
Right.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I could agree with that. I think everybody, added a lot of great points, even some that I didn't even think about. Yeah, I've been writing down a few. I think at times, and I think you did a really good job at this, Alicia, starting off. I think at times we need to start off by qualifying people and qualifying the question in terms of what does that really look like for the average 20-year-old. What does that look like for the average 30-year-old? What does that look like for the average couple who are in a relationship? Like, there are all these different pockets that look like for the average couple who are there are all these different pockets that look like I'm sorry, Jay, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it looks different, so I always like to say, how do we qualify that? I agree, like everything can't be just work, but I do believe in setting your life up in a particular type of way where you can enjoy those those type of adventures, those travel excursions, right? Whether it's on a cruise, whether it's traveling. I personally love to go see anything and everything: architecture, art, food, culture. I'm very heavily immersed anywhere I go. I always read upon the culture before I get there, so it's never a surprise. But that's just me. Everything else is just extra, because those things that I could do here, but you experiencing and walking among the people, that's a completely different kind of experience. So I would say, travel at your leisure, travel in groups. I mean, I know now they have all these like solo trip where they curate experiences with other like-minded individuals who like to travel and like to go into particular locations and do certain activities, whether it's hiking, whether it's surfing, whatever the case may be. I think there is something for everybody. right? And I think that it allows us to become much more well-rounded. Because unfortunately, what we tend to hear as I sit back listening very actively, a lot of people are very poorly cultured and understand what's really happening outside of their borders because they become so comfortable in in being mediocre. You know, it actually takes time and effort to try to learn something new, especially about a culture or region or religious a religious set group of individuals outside of your personal comfort zone. And I don't think that there's any greater vehicle out here than there is compared to traveling.
Okay. What are the benefits of being single at this stage of life that are often overlooked? What are some of the benefits?
Less conflict. You have less conflicts in general, just less compromising to do, less sharing. You know, you get to be selfish without it being a negative thing. You know, you can kind of make decisions without having to consider when there's like an expression where it's if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So it really depends on what your strategy at life is. But if you want to be able to do things quickly and swiftly, you can do that when you're single, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I think there are several benefits, but it's definitely relative to who you are as a person. So I think, like, what I'm wondering is what are the benefits of being in a relationship other than, like Louise stated earlier, which is definitely a good benefit, right? Communicating or having someone on your team to confide in. But, like, what is it that women should be valuing about relationships that are like that make people wonder or assume that we're pretending to be happy? What's the benefit of having a man?
I couldn't answer that. I literally, y'all would have to answer that. You would have to tell us what's the benefit to you of having a man? What's the difference of having one and not having one in your life?
I mean, there. Okay, like this is like think like opposites. You know, we're not symmetrical, right? The things that you find attractive in a man are not the same things that I find attractive in a woman. You know what I'm saying? But we're complementary that way, right? And there are things that you see in a man or a set group of men that you find desirable, whether it's their leadership, whether it's their ability to be stoic and be able to handle situation conflicts in a certain manner, whether it's their ability to kind of, you know, network and be around men who they respect and revere, right? It's their ability to garner resources, right? It's their ability to be responsible and accountable. There are a lot of things that come with having a man. And don't get me wrong, there are women who also possess these things, but the things that you find attractive in a man are not necessarily the mirror opposite of what we find attractive in women, you know, and that's okay. I think that's the thing that makes us come together really, really nicely is because we're like yin and yang, right? It's a bit of a symbiosis relationship, right? It's like almost like a very delicate dance between us, and you just gotta sit with yourself enough long enough to figure out like these are the things that I feel I would enjoy and want in a partner, or I want in a person or in a band, right? And you gotta understand those things and find those qualities in someone who fits well into your lifestyle and how you move and the things that you value.
So, Alicia, did he answer the question?
Well, unfortunately, it cut the first bit of it cut out. I was having connection issues, but I hear what you're saying, and I guess to be more specific, like men know that one of the benefits of having a wife is someone to reproduce with, right? traditionally, right? Someone that'll take care of the home, rear the children, cook and clean. That's like a very traditional, archaic view of it, but that's one of the known benefits of it. And I guess what I'm looking for is like the benefit other than characteristics of a specific person.
Traditionally, it would be providing and
How
protecting.
when I'm sorry.
Traditionally, if you're talking about traditionally, it would be providing and protecting and
Right.
guiding leadership. So that would be the benefit.
So now that we live in a day and age where we don't necessarily need a man to, and don't get me wrong, because I love the idea of a relationship and do want a man. It just hasn't worked out that way. I've had men, but now that we live in a time where women don't need men to provide, right? I'll say we always need them to be protective, but providing is a big part. What would now be the benefit of us having men, especially at this age, over 30 in our lives, if we have all of that under control for the most part?
But so essentially, we're just simply taking a man and reducing him to just his monetary gain.
No,
I think she's
I'm
asking
asking what do you guys think the benefits are? Like the young lady that originally wrote this post, I say she's projecting, right? But because, like I said, you can want a man, but needing one and wanting one is two different things. One, and then in order for me to be unhappy about having one, that means I'm missing out on the benefit of having one. So I want to clarify what we think the real benefit of having a man is.
I think men allow women to both regulate and express their emotions to the deepest level.
And what makes you think that?
Because I've seen it in day to day, like simply a situation of even a woman being upset. It's oftentimes like a man that will help her feel calm, help her feel safe. Even when women often describe the type of characteristics they're looking for in a man, it's kind of just that. They want to feel safe. They want to. I hear women say this phrase all the time, that they want to be able to turn their brain off when they're around a man. Essentially, not have to think, not have to worry about danger, not have to worry about, how much gas is needed in the car to get to the destination. Do we have enough money to pay these bills? Where are we going to sleep tonight? I think there's a lot of things, a lot of problems that we are naturally designed to solve that stress women out to a high degree. And just having us there allows women to feel safe. And I've literally had homegirls that been in a stressed out situation. Yo, can you just come over? Because I just need you to be here so I could feel safe. Or like I've had homegirls that have been moving and just asked me to be there, not even to move that much, but just my presence to be able to move a couple things just helps them feel like they're not alone struggling by themselves. And like emotionally, that can be the difference between a woman sitting on top of a box in her apartment for 3 hours, not knowing what she's going to do next, and feeling like I can get this done and get it all done and all folded up and wrapped up in an hour. So I think that's the impact that we have. I've seen situations where my mom's been stressed, where my dad being around or just me being able to talk to her has been able to have her be able to be like, okay, like I can breathe now. Let me sit aside. Let me let them handle it because this is their realm. And I feel that when women can trust in that way and let the guard down in that way, I feel that they tend to be extremely happy. And like, it's like the femininity is like bubbling out of them. Like they can't control it. Like they're just so girly and so like excited and happy because they feel so comforted and safe.
I agree. I think men offer us relief, and that's what I was hoping you was going to say, because that is definitely it for me.
I think that comes with the right man, because every man is right for every woman. And all of them don't bring relief.
So a clout is essentially saying, pressure's made for shoulders, not hips.
What'd you say?
So what Clout is essentially saying is that pressure is made for shoulders, not hips.
Sure, because unless you talk about the pressure of that baby coming out of that. Actually, hips were designed for more
This
pressure.
could take that pressure.
But we won't get technical.
One certain type of pressure that I'm talking about.
But I do want to ask, why do you all think? Do you really think that it's women who are avoiding relationships, or are they not coming across the right men? Like Kelly said, like they not all out here moving like that. They're not all offering. In fact, most of them are not offering relief. And before you get on your soapbox, don't tell me nothing about no nice guys winning last, because anybody that got to tell you he's a nice guy that finishes last is in fact not a nice guy. He's more than likely a creep.
Well, yeah. Well, more of that later. I will answer your first part. I am outside. I've been outside. I was outside this past weekend, and I go outside every other weekend, whatever, when I'm not too busy. And one of the things that I love and enjoy watching the dynamic of people just moving around in spaces. So I design spaces. I study spaces. I study people. And one of the things that I always notice is that outside right now, where I go, there are more women than men outside. It is astonishing. I be in an establishment, it's like 85% women and 15% men.
Where's this at?
Like the spots, like the brunch spots that I go to, the breakfast spots that I pull up, even the evening spots where I pulled up. I went to this one spot on like Saturday night. I pulled up. There were like 3 different parties of women that were like an average group size of like 6 to 8. Like I I pull up at the bar and it's like more women than men. I'm telling you, like I would agree with you. A lot of dudes are just not outside. Like I've had this conversation and I brought this up before. Women are like, where are the fellas? You know, like my cousin who owns and runs a lounge, and she does all these promotions and stuff like that. And they're like some weekends, like this place is packed with women, and they're like, no men. They're like, can you invite some of your guys? And I'm like, a lot of my guys are married and off the market, or they're just not interested in going outside. They're just not outside per se. So I find it that more women are going outside and enjoying themselves or whatever, but like the dudes are just not out there. So when I show up, it's like the percentage disparity is so huge. And I ask myself, I'm curious to know why. Either they don't want to spend money, they don't want to be bothered, or the cultural dynamic of just meeting people has shifted on its head, that people just would rather just be at home and talk to people online from the comfort of their own home on their couch, as opposed to being outside and sparking conversations. Because I'll be honest with you. I go outside, I pull up at spots, and you know what age group of women flirt the most, approach the most, and be very flirtatious? No, the 20-year-olds, the women who are like 23 to 29 at a high level. I don't know what it is. They'll come, hey. They'll flirt, they'll wink or whatever. They'll signal.
I know what it is.
I know what it is too.
Right.
Okay, what is it?
Because what do you think it is, Kelly? Because
they might be looking for someone to take care of them. Older men.
Perhaps.
Some of them is that.
What?
I think some of them is that, but I will say that I think sometimes guys, especially at my age, like 30 and up, will entertain younger women, because I think women in their 20s have this energy about them where they actually, it feels like they actually like guys. Like it feels like when they see guys like that are good looking to them, like they're actually excited. They get giddy and like they want to be girly around you, and like they're happy to be around guys. Whereas like women older, like in the 30s and 40s, tend to like be more skeptical of guys. Like their attitude is more like, I might like you. you could be like, I could mess with you, maybe, you know, prove yourself. And I think that sometimes dudes just don't want to deal with all that pressure. Sometimes it's fun to just go to the bar and girls just smiling and flirting with you just to have fun, not because not with a mentality of, well, you better have something really important to say to me or else you're wasting my time because my clock is ticking. I'm ready to have kids and a family. It's like these girls are not looking for anything serious as soon as they meet you. They literally just want to have fun. They just want to have a good time. And that's refreshing sometimes, especially when you done worked your ass off to get somewhere. And now you're like, okay, I done earned my bag. I got a little money. I can come outside and play. I want to play with the people that want to have fun. I don't want to play with the people that want to sit all stitch in the corner. And
I support that.
One other thing too, Clout, is that when you have something to actually share, we were just talking about traveling. We were talking about traveling, people taking trips and stuff like that. When you're someone who has been to places and has been in different kind of spaces, and you have a certain network of people around you, a certain aura, or how I like to say, a certain je ne sais quoi about you, or how you carry yourself, that shows. Your personality and your aura shows up 5 minutes before you physically walk through the door, and it could tell. I know that because I've done it and I've seen it and I witnessed it. There's a certain demeanor about you, how you carry yourself, how you talk, how you articulate yourself, and also how good are you with women and how you handle women, especially in conversations, right? They pick up on that. They see that. You have a conversation with one woman, next thing you know, the whole group of women, you're like, yo, come over here, have a drink. Next thing you know, the whole place is surrounded around just telling stories, sharing stories about traveling trips. Anything that you've been up to, because you've lived life, you have something to talk about, something to share, and that's exciting, right? Unfortunately, a certain cloth of men do not have that kind of level of life experience. They're still trying to get there, and they will get there. Some might not, but when you done that, you're received so differently than everybody else.
I agree, and I think that men. I think one of the yes, Kelly, that. But then another thing is we are women 30 plus, especially 35 plus and 40. We come from an era where we're used to being approached. And I think now men have gotten very comfortable with being approached by these younger women for fun. You know what I mean? Like nobody's really approaching anybody with any serious intent. And so we still waiting because I'm not gonna run up and sweat no man. The younger generation is definitely way more shameless. Not that we sitting up judging them about it. It's just not the way we move. It's like I still believe in courtship. Yes, I want to go on a date. Yes, I want you to plan it. You don't necessarily have to pick me up, but I want you to make sure I get home safe. You know what I mean? Like there's this type of guy that I grew up valuing. I think men of all ages are kind of reeling back from because it's so much easier to just date. She's younger, she's fun, she don't expect too much from me. Like, yeah, so you want to do all the things except mature into a mature man. Meanwhile, women are just naturally doing that because whether we have children or husbands, like we have to become these much more adults big time, right? And I think men have the luxury of not having to do that and still be approached and still can make kids and do whatever they want.
Clout, if I may, just for 1 second, I just want to ask one question. With the whole men approaching, I don't disagree with you. I still push that men approach, right? But for men to approach also, like there has to be cues and signals. I think you have to parlay with me. Women do a poor job of sending the right signals, right, of interest.
Yes.
You see him, he sees you, you find him attractive, you want him to approach, but yet you're sending mixed signals and he wants to also approach, but you're also around 2 or 3 of your other friends, and you're trying to navigate that dynamic. And some guys have that sort of level of confidence that is just beyond. And there are some who are there, but they're trying to make sure that they don't go over there and embarrass themselves or put themselves in a compromising situation. So I think sending choosing signals is very, very key. You know, it's not so much about the men not approaching, but also sending the right choosing signal.
I agree, and I see that in women a lot too. As a woman, because I'm like a grade A flirt. We gonna have a good time, and you gonna come over here for sure. I don't have the complaint of men not approaching, but I do, but I do see women with this air about themselves that make them seem unapproachable. I don't know where along the line, like we thought attitude was cute, but like a lot of people have like that's their personality, and they want a man to fight through that in order to get to connect with them, and they whack for that for sure. And I think that is also part of the reason why some men are discouraged from approaching women, older women too. Unfortunately, they're not all as cool as Kelly and I.
I was just
Okay,
gonna say,
so
I think playing hard to get, essentially, which was big in the 90s, women playing hard to get. I think that's what killed men approaching. I think that eventually, also with the internet, I think more men have access to game, and I think this is a big thing, right? Like in the past, the only way you could get some game is if your uncle or your daddy or somebody you knew was that guy, and he could put you onto the game. And that's the only way you got some game. You had to watch, or you had to just have it in you. Now, there's so many resources for men to learn about female nature that men have started noticing and understanding that, you know what? When I approach, I'm not getting the same results as when I attract. And so, because men are becoming more aware of female nature, men are not even telling each other, like I actually have to question in my mind right now if I would tell my son to approach and chase women, because even in my own personal life, my success with women has always been the women that have made themselves available for me are always the ones that I've had a better relationship with. It's always been more successful. The women that I've like chased after because I've wanted them that bad, it never goes the way I want. It's usually the women that have a little bit more interest in me that I find that the relationship goes well. And I think that that's an experience for a lot of men, not just me. I think once they start having that experience and they do experience the joys of being approached by a woman, and they do experience the joys of being chased by a woman, and once they get to that status in life, it's very hard to go back to being the guy that's like, yo, hey, let me get your number, let me buy you a drink. When you become the guy that walks in the club and makes eye contact, says a couple words, and she leaves with you. You get what I'm saying? It's like a different. Also, results make a difference, right? If I'm catching more flies with the honey, I'm gonna use the honey. You get what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm gonna use. Like I'm not gonna.
Yeah, but if you can catch, you want to catch bees or flies? You want to catch bees that can make more honey and keep
You know what I'm
shit
saying?
popping?
Flies, bees.
Or we talking about flies?
Bees.
That's the type
flies,
of woman
bees.
that's
It's
gonna
all
chase
semantics.
a man.
Listen,
I
flies,
think
bees is
be
all semantics. All I'm
I think
saying
you
is
have
that
to be careful. No,
when women
I
choose
don't.
you,
Not semantics. I mean the quality of women that will chase a man, and then the ones that say, not really into that. I think it's just different.
This is the thing. Whenever this topic comes up, right, and we talk about women chasing a man, other women generally always say, "Oh, well, the type of woman or the quality of a woman that would do that is." But the reality is that every woman is that type of woman for the guy that they really like. When women come across a guy that is their exact type, that's exactly. I don't care who she is. I don't care how bad she is. I don't care how gorgeous she is. I don't care how much money she got. When women come across the guys that they actually like, it is not hard to get them. If she's playing hard to get, she don't like you, because when women come across the guys they like, they go out of their way to make themselves seen by him. They go out of their way to be noticed by him. Women will travel and go to an event just because they know a guy that they like is going to be there and they might run into him.
Would you call that chasing?
Maybe we don't call it chasing, but what it is that
perhaps pursuing,
okay. Right? When women put forth that effort as a guy and you experience that, you're not chasing after that. That is such a pleasant experience of having a woman that desires you, pursue you, and make herself available, or give choosing signals or whatever it is, like Louis said. once you're getting that energy, like if I walk into a room and I make eye contact with a woman and I'm making eye contact with her and she's biting her lip and swirling her hair, I'm not paying attention to none of the other one in the room at that point. I'm going for the one that's giving me the motion. So I think that's why guys aren't chasing, because women aren't really doing what Luis was saying. Like, women are doing a poor job at flirting and letting it be known that they are available and interested. A lot of women are saying, we don't need y'all. We don't want y'all. I'm good. I'm unbothered. I'm this. So if you're so good and unbothered and you're on the beach and you chilling, why am I going to chase you? Like, guys say this too, like, chase you to pay your bills, like chase you to take you on a date, like chase you to buy you dinner. That don't make no sense.
I think this is where that the idea that men are becoming more aware of, what did you say earlier? Like, they're becoming more aware of a woman's nature. I think they're being misled. And a lot of times you guys, you have these assumptions based on your experiences with the women that you've experienced it with. And I think the type of man you are determines what kind of woman you're going to have experiences with. Do you see what I'm saying? So
no,
like
your
view is very biased, and it's fine. But I think if you're open-minded, if you stay open-minded, then the possibility of like getting better than what you think is out there, or actually being able to pursue a woman and it turning out to be a good, like, you have to keep an open mind in order for that to happen, because it's just not true.
Well, so Alicia,
I just want to respond to that real quick. I'm just saying that in my experience, the women that have made themselves available or approached me, whatever the case, have always been higher quality women. So it's like, I always hear out in the world that, a high quality woman isn't going to approach, isn't going to do that. But in my personal experience, it's the exact opposite. It's the high quality women that are about their bag, that keep a clean home, that know how to cook. It's those women that don't play the games. It's the ones that don't really have a lot to offer, that want to be chased. Because the thing, and in my opinion, right, I feel that a lot of women that don't have a lot to offer want to be chased, because you chasing them gives them more opportunity to avoid you getting to see that they don't have much to offer. You get what I'm saying? Like if I'm constantly stringing you along to chase me, you're not really qualifying me to see if I'm worth it, because you're busy trying to qualify yourself. So in my experience, those women tend to be a little bit lower quality.
So do you prefer to be pursued?
Not that I prefer to be, I don't necessarily prefer to be pursued. However, I'm just saying, for men in general, once you've been pursued, once that's been your experience, once you've had that happen in your life, like, yeah, your entire attitude and your entire approach changes, because the women that pursue you treat you to an entirely different level than the women that you pursue. It's an entirely different dynamic. And I think the men that have experienced the dynamic of being pursued by a woman, it's very hard to go back to the dynamic of pursuing a woman when it's like on that side, it's good. It's a really good side to be on. And this is why dudes want to be quote unquote high value men. This is why dudes want to be celebrities, rock stars. This is why they want to get rich and famous, because the hope is that when I'm at that level, I'll experience the women pursuing me. When you're Chris Brown, women pay you $1,000 to take a picture. You know what I'm saying?
And you think that they have quality reasons for doing that? You think their intentions are pure because it's Chris Brown? Like he's getting the quality women? I can't
speak for their individual intentions, but if I was just judging based off of appearance, right? Because one of the things that men value a lot is appearance, right? And if I'm just being honest, if I'm judging based off of appearance alone, some of the most attractive women in the world are spending their hard-earned dollars to fly across the country to give Chris Brown $1,000 to take a picture with him. What I'm saying is, if you've ever been in a position like that or similar, it's very hard to go the other way. I highly doubt Chris Brown.
Yeah, as a woman, that's traditionally how it was. Women were pursued, and now men want to be pursued like women do, because they get that it's it's enjoyable. I'm
I think
sorry,
that-
Luis. What were you?
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
essentially, we see how women pursue the top 10%. We see how y'all pursue what y'all really want. We see how y'all pursue the guys y'all really like. When men see that and then hear women say pursue us, it doesn't equate. Why would I chase you when I see what you're willing to do for who you really like? Y'all don't make the guy y'all really like chase you. So in a guy who's experienced that from a male perspective, I'm saying, right? Generally, the guys that get the most out of women, give the least. At least from my experience, from what I've seen. I could be wrong, but from what I've seen. And so when you see that all the time, you learn from that and you're gonna adjust your strategy. So if I'm the guy who was chasing girls in high school, buying them flowers, writing them letters about how beautiful and special I thought they were, and that wasn't getting me no motion, but then I started ignoring them and focusing on myself, and then it started getting me motion. In my mind, that's going to tell me that the way to have success with women is to ignore them and focus on me. Because if I ignore them and focus on me, I seem to be irresistible to them. Guys will tell you this. Maybe some will lie, but any guy will tell you this. Any man will tell you this. When he goes through a phase in his life where he's ignoring women, it's like a light bulb, like a switch goes off, where the man becomes irresistible out of nowhere. It's like dudes that be like, yo, I think I'm handsome all of a sudden. Like, I don't know what happened. I'm getting money now. I'm not chasing no girls in my life. And now all of a sudden, I'm getting the twirl of the hair at work. Now the girl at the cash register is batting the eyelashes and all of that. And unfortunately, that's something in y'all nature that I don't think that y'all are always ready to confront. There's something in y'all that chases guys that are not interested in y'all. And so a lot of guys now have changed their strategy to trying to be the guy that's not interested in y'all so that y'all could chase them. It's an easier strategy. And it's much less stress involved in that strategy. Because think about it, right? I could spend my money trying to take X amount of women on dates, right? Or I could spend that same money buying myself new clothes and jewelry. If I spend that same money I would have spent taking a bunch of women on dates trying to court them on clothes and jewelry, guess what? The same girls I would have been trying to take on dates are going to be chasing me because I'm the dude with the fly clothes and jewelry. So that's what I'm saying. Guys are learning, you know what? I could chase women or I could chase money. I never lose women chasing money, but I lose money chasing women.
Mentality. It's about mentality. Every man doesn't think like that. But when it comes to women chasing men, like, I don't have that issue, so I can't even speak on that. I've never really chased a man. I've been pursued by men.
You probably haven't found a guy that you like that much yet.
That's not true. Maybe I just haven't centered my life around men. Maybe you
gotta accept that
you haven't met one that you liked enough to center your life around.
I'm sorry, respectfully, I don't know if I don't know how old you are.
36.
But I'm sorry.
I'm 36.
I'm someone that does believe that time allows for more experience, and the more you experience, the more you travel, the more shit you learn, the more unfamiliar spaces you put yourself in, the more well-rounded you become, and the more you know. And Kelly and I probably linked because we carry ourselves in similar fashions, right? Like, and we met years ago. We were both on a date with another guy. Like, she was on a date with one guy, I was on a date with another guy. They were friends, and her and I ended up being friends. Like, there are women that exist that do not have these problems and that won't cause you the problems that you're used to having with women.
Sure.
I'm curious to know the between the two other men on this panel right now, is this you all's perspective of pursuing women and being pursued as well? Because I can be open-minded and believe that it's not all men thinking like this. I'm hoping.
Well,
it's not my mindset, it's my experience.
But okay, well, let me hear. I just want to hear an alternative experience, or if yours is a universal one.
So So my frame of thinking and my sort of my mindset is that I've kind of built myself, in a particular type of way to be attractive, and it not only conversationally, not physically, but also networking wise in every aspect, right? You know what I'm saying? I think it's very important not to be a one trick pony. Just having money is not enough. Just dressing well is not enough. I think you need to become the whole package, right? You need to take care of yourself, just like at the beginning of the show, like Lapeef always promote, taking care of your skin, taking care of your beard, looking well, presenting well, grooming. It's very important. You do not know how often I get compliments when I put on a suit and I go out to dinner.
Smelling good is
Everybody,
what you're real for.
you know, I get a lot of compliments every single time, and that feels good. You know what I'm saying? And it also signals to people that I take good care of myself and I take myself serious. So therefore, I want you to respect me the way I respect myself, and then vice versa. With that being said, with the whole approaching thing, if you're if you're packaging the type of way or you move in a particular type of way, you're going to attract a lot of women. You know what I'm saying? Some women, are you're going to attract everything, good, bad, and indifferent. But it's upon you to discern the type of people that you want to give your energy to, that you want to give your time to, and how you navigate those interactions. When it comes to approaching women, in terms of where I talked about earlier about sending signal, choosing signals and stuff like that, I show up to places and I'll go up to the bar. They know my order, and I'll see two women to my right. They're sitting there. I'll be like, "What are they having this evening?" And they're like, "Oh, they're having so and so." I was like, "Do me a favor. Make sure you send them around over to them, and you send them around over, and that's an icebreaker.
Game.
Right? That's an icebreaker. You know what I'm saying? Cheers, et cetera, et cetera. That opens up dialogue, which therefore opens up, questions and opportunities to just interact and have conversations. Because once you start talking and you sound interesting and you have things of value to talk about, they're going to find you attractive just because you present well, you talk well, and everything else that comes with it. You know what I'm saying? There's a certain level of confidence. And that's one thing that I want men to also develop is an abundance mindset. Because I approach a woman and I find her attractive or she looks nice this evening and she denies my advances, I'm not about to break down and and shut down. It's okay. You take it for what it is, you know
Or
what I'm
beat
saying?
her up because they crazy out here.
And just you just turn to the side and be like, "Hey, how you doing this evening?" And you just keep the night moving. The comment that I made at the beginning, talking about how there are more women outside than men. If one says no, it's okay. Just have a conversation with the next, or put yourself in an opportunity to have dialogue with another. It's about developing an abundance mindset. Because one says no, that's okay. Two might say no. It's okay, cool. Just keep that thing moving. I'm not going to allow that to determine or shut down my personal confidence, right? Because at the end of the day, they could be having a bad day. They probably just got bad news 15 minutes before I even walked in the door, right? There are so many factors that come into play that are outside of your control. But what you can control is how you carry yourself and how you talk to them, right? And then next time might see them around, they'll be like, "Damn, you look good." I know you approached, but I just wasn't in the mood. Something happened to me, and it's like, oh, it's okay. There are people who have those types of moments, and I don't really get bogged down into those. But I don't look at that as being chased. I think that's putting yourself in opportunities to
In some position.
yeah, right. And women are going to, drop the handkerchief or, wink an eye or send you choosing signals, right? That they're interested in, to approach. But again, goes back to there are a lot of women who don't do that effectively or do that well, right? And some men kind of who don't have a whole lot of experience with navigating women are going to fumble and sort of. I can see both sides. That's just my perspective.
I guess it's on me now. I think people gotta understand that choosing signals don't always come right away. You know, sometimes you do gotta position yourself. If I see something I like, I'm gonna go after it, right? And based off how the conversation goes, then a signal may arise. But sometimes people may not just be noticing you, and it may not be intentionally. It just might not be what they own. So that's why I think it comes into play where you got to position yourself. There are some women that do chase, but it's kind of selective, man. I'm the type of person that when I'm in a room or I'm around people, I like to kind of take how it's coming to me. So however things are coming to me, then that's how I'm gonna assess the situation as far as how I'm gonna go about it. If it's something that I really like, I'm gonna go after it. If it's something, if it's I'm trying to see if I can get her attention and see if I get that choosing signal. If I get it, then I know it's game time. If not, then oh well. You just keep it moving. It's just part of the game. It's part of life. It's how people flirt, date. Some women are more flirtatious, some are not. You know, some people are more laid back. They do want you to come talk to them. And then if you come talk to them and then if you get that choosing signal, then you know you can just continue further in the conversation. So I don't get too hung up on one way. I just want to be well versed no matter the situation. If I'm not, if I'm sensing that she's not attracted to me or she doesn't want to be around me, I'm not gonna waste my time. I'm not gonna waste either of our time because clearly she doesn't want to be bothered. If she curves you, you just all right, well, you have a nice day and keep it moving. So everything is always situational when it comes to me. And I have no problem approaching a woman. If I want her that bad, I'm gonna shoot my shot.
I think a lot of men are afraid of rejection, and that's why they prefer to be chased by a woman or pursued by a woman. Am I wrong?
I think
Is
that's
it
easy to say
rejection?
from the sex that doesn't have to deal with rejection. I think that's like easy to say, like, oh, it's just a lot of guys are afraid of rejection. It's like, well,
I think ego for
that
men
that
is a
that
little.
but what I'm saying is it's easy to say that when you're not the person who has to, right? So like again, you've already stated that you're not the person who approaches. So I feel like that's kind of like a high and mighty approach. It's like, oh well, you're just scared to approach. Well, it's like you
Now I
that
said
kind
I
of
No,
don't
but
belittle
chase.
I
but
do get the signals.
or maybe they're scared of rejection, right? But what I'm saying is that kind of belittles the experience because it's like it's not easy to approach a woman. I mean, like that's the thing. Like when y'all say it as though it's easy to approach and effectively, attract a woman, and it's not. And I'm sure y'all know that because y'all probably reject a lot of guys in a day. So when you're holding the power of rejection, I think it's easier to say to kind of use someone's fear of rejection against them as though that's like there's something wrong with that, I guess. Like as though, like, you know what I mean? Like that, I think that's completely human and natural, especially when you're the person who's taking all the risk.
So yeah, so one of the things I want to kind of highlight too is what Clout Jones is saying is, I mean, there are some men that are like that. And then there are some men that don't mind getting rejected and shooting a shot. I think it's everything that's out there. So I'm not gonna say he's not speaking his experience and his truth. I'm just not like that. I look at everybody as human. And believe it or not, even the women that are quote unquote beautiful to the world, they have some of the biggest insecurities. But you won't find that out unless you have a conversation with them. And if you're giving direct eye contact with them, like you'll be surprised that they're looking to see what you're looking at or what you're noticing because they start to get a little bit defensive. So I just look at everybody just human. I've never been a fan of anybody. I may appreciate somebody's work and how they navigate in the world, but I've never just been a fan of it. I don't put anybody on that pedestal as though they can't be approached. They're just a woman. It's
I,
no big deal. Like you talk to them, I think the world puts them up there so they may walk like that. But if you have a conversation and she can sense that confidence, then 9 out of 10, she's gonna rock with you because she's seeing that you're not afraid of the moment. You're not afraid to interact with her. You're not afraid to engage. And if she sends you a signal, then it's oh well. Sometimes you just got to initiate a little bit, and then she'll do all the work. She'll do all the work from that point on, and then you get all the true signals you want because now you have her attention. So everything is just always situational to me, and you just got to know how to navigate in those moments because you just never know what's gonna come. Things can take a twist. It's been times that you could speak to a woman and you could just kill it by saying one thing, or either just laughing at some dumb shit, being too silly, being too talkative, and then the moment is just dead.
Well, I would say this to respond to geez, I apologize. Your name escapes me.
It's Alicia and Kelly.
And Kelly. Sorry about that. I don't think that they're afraid of rejection. I think that some men are more afraid of embarrassment, or that sort of being rude and crass for them to try to approach and say, just introduce themselves, or, come over and try to buy a drink or whatever, is them receiving that sort of that rudeness, that crass, or that humiliation in front of other people publicly. I think that is more of what they don't want to receive, rather than, hey, thank you, I really appreciate that you're interested, but today I'm just not feeling it, or I have somebody, I don't want to be approached. And that's a completely different dynamic in interaction compared to somebody being rude and crass. And imagine going through that 2 times in one evening, and other people have seen that. Now you don't even want to be there. It just changes the entire energy and dynamic of you enjoying the evening. And mind you, I don't think that that's everybody who is doing that, right? I do think that there are people who do lack decorum, right, and etiquette in terms of how they handle rejection, or how they handle, somebody's advancements, right? And it could be poorly delivered, and sort of nobody wants to be served this 8-ounce steak on a dirty plate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to kind of observe the person that you plan to approach, and then you have a better feel of if you're going to say something or not. I think a lot of women that might be out to have a good time. So approaching a woman might not be the worst thing. And as far as like her turning you down or whatever, I mean, that shouldn't be a problem. Like you said, you just move on. I don't think that I've been rude to people. I mean, Alicia and I have been together, out, nightlife, I don't think like I'm a rude person, or that I am high and mighty.
I
But
don't think you're who we're talking about when we talk about
I
women that
don't.
seem
Yeah.
approachable.
I don't think we're talking about you,
We're
ladies.
not really talking about y'all. Like, y'all don't really
what
give
does
off
that
that
girl look
energy.
like? Because I would bet that I would hope that it would, like, you would be able to tell better. But I do know, like, there is no way of knowing, right? But I would say, me personally, I have a lot of homeboys, right? Like, I think sometimes approaching a woman with the pressure of like, yeah, I'm trying to get with you, is like gonna get you more pushback than simply, like you said, just treating her as a person and trying to get to know a person. And I always respect that. And I always respect any man that has the courage, I'll just say, to approach, because I know that it can be tricky for me. And I know that I ain't gonna do most of it. No, I mean, I have, but most of the time I'm not. So I am going to be gracious. I am going to, even if I have to let you down, I'll let you down easy. But like, what's the worst experience you've had where a woman has like been nasty in turning down your advance?
I personally have never experienced somebody being nasty. I have experienced somebody rejecting my advancement, saying that they're not interested, or they have somebody, which is totally understandable. Yeah, that's going to happen. But I'm pretty confident that you ladies have seen, witnessed, or heard at some level of a fellow female, doing exactly what we're talking about in terms of being rude, crass, disrespectful, or just humiliating, right? I'm pretty confident that you've probably seen or heard or witnessed that sort of behavior. And sort of what we're alluding to is more of that, and not how you guys are conducting yourself per se.
Well, I'm asking you guys for your experience, because I think from my perspective, like, yeah, sure, I've seen it. If a nigga, can I say that?
Yeah, you could.
If a nigga's sloppy drunk, right? Or just pushy and rude and loud and mad disrespectful, yes, he's gonna get treated for sure. So like, I'm wondering, what experience have you had approaching someone reasonably and she just like, ew, get the fuck out of my face. Like, is that how it is? Or is it just because if I can understand your experience, then I can better understand like how you arrive to the point that you would prefer to be pursued, or that you see value in that experience over approaching women yourself.
For me particularly, I can answer that question. I don't think I've ever actually had a situation where I've approached a woman and she's reacted in a way that was so crass. I think for me, it's more of what happens after the connection's made. So for me, with the women, I just find that with the women that I go out of my way to approach, when the connection is made, I find that afterwards, the quality of the relationship tends to not be as strong. I don't find that they're as engaged as when I'm dealing with a woman who might have let her interest be known before I did. So let's say I meet two women. One of them I see on the street, I think she's fine. I holler, I talk to her, hey, what's up? Get her number, cool. Then there's another girl that I notice at the bar. I notice she's peeping me, and then I approach her. The one who I notice is peeping me, or the one who might be laughing a little more, or the one who might have said hello to me first, or even on dating apps. All of the women that have messaged me first, we end up going on dates. Out of the ones that I message first, maybe 20% of them might even respond. And then out of the 20% that respond, you know what I mean? It's like pulling teeth, you know what I mean? And then we might end up on a date, but I tell you for sure, I almost know if I'm on a dating app and I match with you and she messages me first, I'm like, oh, because I know the date's going to happen. I don't have to qualify whether the interest is there, because if she's going out her way to message me, the interest is definitely there. And I just find that today it's very hard to determine whether the interest is there with women or not. So it's almost like the only way you can be sure that the interest is there is if she makes it clear. And I just find that when women are really interested, they make it clear. If it's not clear, it's because you're not in the top percent. You're not in the top 10% of what she wants if she's not making it very clear. Because again, whenever I've felt like I've been in that top 10% for a particular woman, it's never been a guess in my mind of whether she's interested. It's always been clear as day.
Yes.
And I just feel that a lot of men would prefer to deal with a situation that's clear as day than one that may be confusing or uncertain.
Yeah. So go ahead, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say, man, I just like the balance of everything, man. I don't think what Cloud's saying is wrong. You know, if you are able to be fortunate to get the correct choosing signal, or she's letting you know that she's showing interest, there's nothing wrong with that. But because I know that anything at any possible time is unpredictable, I just want to kind of keep that like in the back of my bag and say, hey, if this situation presents itself, then I know how to interact with it. If she doesn't give me a choosing signal and I want her, this is how I'm going to interact with that situation. So I just want to be like well versed as far as how I'm going to be approaching whoever it may be. Because if I want something, I'm gonna go get it. It ain't got to be a woman. It could just be a vision, goal. It could be anything. I'm gonna go get it. But I'm not gonna spend too much time on it if I'm not getting certain signals.
Yeah, he's absolutely right about that. Like, if a woman wants you, she gonna make it clear.
Reciprocal energy.
So I'm not gonna be sitting there too long if she made it clear as day that she don't want to deal with me, or she not feeling me. I'm not attractive to everyone, and I'm okay with that. But to the people I am attracted to, then it is. I know I'm not an ugly guy, but I also know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's cool. Same thing with me. But then sometimes when you have a conversation with somebody, because you can be assuming something, but you don't know unless you have a conversation with them, like what they're really about. And sometimes you do got initiated. If you see somebody, you might be sleeping on a sleepover there because you ain't initiated. So I'm gonna go ahead and shoot and see what it's talking about. But when I go out, I don't go out looking for women. I like things to more like organically happen. So if somebody comes across my radar and I'm talking to them, I must have really want them, or I must have really wanted to see what they was on, which is rare, right? I don't just go out just chase. I like to organically meet. If I'm having a conversation with somebody and we're in a common space, and then I found out more about them, then that's how I go about it. But I'm not chasing anybody. It won't be a chase. But if I see something that I like, you best believe I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go get it.
I agree with that method.
Yeah, I do want to go back to what Alicia had brought up and what Clout was talking about in terms of the dating apps. Like dating apps and social media approach is completely different than that and in person. I feel very strongly and confident in person than I do than on a dating app because there's so many dynamics with a dating app that you have to navigate. Not only how you curate the profile, but also your ability to communicate effectively and close and get them off the dating app in either into text message or social media message. Because what happens is that once you match with someone, like if I match with like hypothetically, if I match with Alicia, right? I have to, if I'm interested, I gotta already review her profile, already, shoot my shot, create a message, and go. Because I understand within a 24-hour, she's gonna get an avalanche of other requests from other men, either direct messages like that they're interested or they're trying to match, right? So time is of the essence. So you need to like match and close and be very effective with it in terms of being witty, funny, hit certain points that you both have certain likes or interests or compatibility, and just kind of, a few conversations and just be like, look, I know people get lost on these. I know people get lost in translation and communication on these dating apps, but I would love to connect with you off this, and hopefully we could, go on a date, whatever, right? But you're moving it off the dating app, right? Because if not, by tomorrow, you get an avalanche of 20 more messages, and then you're over here thinking like, yeah, she's gonna get back to me. She's probably busy, she probably works out, go to yoga. No, she's just get avalanche by 20, 30, 40 messages, right? And then by the end of the week, you're like, damn, like I thought I shot my shot really well, not understanding that you're at the bottom of message 45, message 64. We're not dumb. I understand that once I liked you, every other man in the world didn't go blind. So they find you just as equally attractive or sexy attractive. So therefore, I know I'm not the only one shooting their shot. I'm just being very strategic about how I shoot my shot and to close, to remove you off the app so we can continue this conversation, right? As opposed to getting stuck somewhere in chat pack purgatory, right? And that's what really happens. That's really what happens. Like a lot of women, and that's why they get off the apps, because they're like, I can never find anyone. It's like, no, it's just that you're bombarded. You're getting 1,000 requests, and the few that you like, you'll get 1 or 2 messages, and then there's an avalanche of more messages that come through, right? And now you're so bombarded with requests, likes. Now you're so overloaded and overstimulated about the whole process that you can't effectively make a wise decision on who you want to give your time to and who you want to entertain and which one is serious. And that is really what the problem is in the crux. So dating app strategy is completely different than, in-person, dating strategy.
And I just want to add to that. To sum it all up, I think a good way to sum it up is there's a difference between like hunting and fishing. You know what I mean? Like some men prefer to hunt. They want to stalk. They want to chase down. They want to find a particular target, and that's what they want. They want that one. They hunters. Some dudes are fishermen. They don't want to put in all that effort. They don't want to. They put their bait down and they're patient. They'll sit there with that bait and that line in the water until they catch the fish that they're looking for. So it really all depends. I think that a lot of women from the 90s are just a little bit more used to the hunter strategy. So I think that that's what they're expecting. But I think a lot of men today are converting to the fisherman strategy. They're more so just trying to cast the net and see how many fish they can get. You know what I mean? Because the way the fish been moving lately, it's like, yo, I don't know what's going on with these fish. So I'm going to just cast the net and catch as many fish as I can. Because the way these fish moving, they don't want to get caught. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is.
Can I just say to that dating app thing too? absolutely sense that, right? Like when you're on that app, we can sense that, like you said, we have this influx of all of these requests and messages, and we can sense that you didn't read shit on my profile, right? Like you are just casting the net and going through each swipe on every girl that you think is cute, rather than actually making sure that it's a good match from the beginning. So a lot of times, and I don't do it no more because God, but in the past, the problem would be, it's like, okay, he'll send me a like, I'll say, hey. So, like, it's real dry and I have to do
That's
so
funny.
much. And it's like, you liked me. Like, why I gotta do the most and you liked me? Or you find out like that we don't actually have anything in common. So yeah, it's gonna be dry. And no, I don't want to go out with you because you didn't even read my profile. You didn't see that I don't like small talk. You didn't
We
see
talking
that I
about
said no kids. You didn't, you know what I mean? Like, we
me.
can
I'm gonna read
sense
that
that.
profile.
Like, y'all
I don't
think
know.
y'all have this strategy, but we know we are just one of many to a lot of y'all. And it's like, that's not how I'm trying to get chose.
Well,
Just by chance, I made it
I,
in the net.
I no,
Fuck that.
and
I'm gonna
we
read that
understand.
profile because that's how I lay my bait. So
Like,
as a fisherman, as an astute fisherman, you know what I mean. I'm gonna read that profile because I got to know exactly what kind of fish I'm going for. You know what I'm saying? Like, do they like worms? Do they like fish? Do they like crab meat? Like, what do they like? So that's how I
I
know what
don't.
bait.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you. I do understand the sentiment which you're sharing. But one of the things that I do, well, first and foremost, I hate dudes that just respond with "Hey," like don't do that. That is just
You wasted my
I
time.
love those guys
that's a
because they
waste of
leave more
that's a
opportunity
waste
for
of
me.
like it is. It's terrible, and you can't. You don't know.
Lame, lame.
You know, hey, hi, hey, hello. Like that is so terrible. I'm pretty sure you have more to your
They
vocabulary.
have so many
But
prompts too that you can actually, like, if we stop trying to get around the system and like really use it the way it's supposed to be used, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad, it doesn't have to be this terrible, overwhelming experience. But I think we've lost the intention, but like, why we even on dating sites? If you have not looking for nothing serious, you have no business on the dating site. That's what people are going there for. I think
People want to have sex too, you know.
there's Tinder for people to just, right, like there's a hookup app where you
That's the
can
dating
go
site.
for just hooking up with folks. But then something like Hinge, where I have a lot of friends that have gotten married off Hinge. Like, I think my poor experience was because of the men that I was getting matched with didn't have serious intentions about dating in the first place, or even getting to know somebody genuinely.
Mm.
well, also too, and I'm just gonna land this. There are men who, who might do the fast track approach, right? And then, probably review your profile, because what happens is, like, even if people take their time to read your profile and write a very thought provoking, introduction and stuff like that, look, the chances of women responding are very low. Like it's 20%. So if you shoot your shot 10 times in a day, two might land, and out of those two who show interest, maybe one will respond back.
That's how it
It
should
has
be, though.
nothing to do with how interesting your response is, and everything to do with how attracted to you she is, based off of your pictures in your profile.
No,
If
but
she
based off
likes
your
your
response
profile,
too.
if when she saw
And,
your
and your
picture in
profile
your
too.
profile, she thought you were attractive, you can say hey, and she will keep that conversation going. And the thing is, I've seen it tested, and I've tested it. If the certain dudes, when they get on these dating apps and they talk to girls, they give the women the one word responses, and you'll watch how the women overextend themselves to keep the conversation going because of how attractive this guy is to them. You know what I mean? So I really just think it really depends on the guy. Like, if the woman likes you, it don't matter what you say. It don't matter how smart you
That
are,
is a
how good you.
lie and a half.
If a woman finds you, listen. I've seen dudes that could barely speak, but handsome guys can barely speak English. Like, they be like, yeah, yeah. And women going batshit crazy over them. simply because once a woman wants you, you win. You won. If she wants you, you've won. The only thing you might be able to mess it up, but you ain't got to do nothing if she likes you. You don't got to be funny. You don't got to be smart. You just got to be you because she already decided I like him.
Well, I mean, I could agree with that. I'm not on any dating apps, so I don't have the experience with that. But I can agree with someone liking you just off of physical attraction. Now, however, is that relationship going to last? Is it going to go far? Maybe not. But I do agree with someone just choosing someone just based off how they look initially. Now, then of course, you know, if you start going out on dates and he doesn't have anything to offer, no conversation, no real vibes there, then okay, but he may have conquered what he wanted by then anyway, and he's moving on to the next.
And that's why I cut him off if that initial conversation is lame. If it's, hey, I already know where this is going.
Listen,
but I think the ones that have been successful, like I like banter. I'm witty, right? Like, and I say that in my profile so that people know that you can come in with a joke. You can ask me a crazy question. Like, I'd rather start there than how you doing? Oh, how was your day? Like, come on. We're here. It's very defined why we're on this app. Like, let's just get to it. And by to it, I mean expressing who we are and sharing our personality so that we can see if it's gonna make sense to go on a date or not.
Yeah,
if
creativity is.
We're not gonna have a good time because I'm gonna carry the conversation the whole time, and I hate that.
Yeah, but you know, everybody's not a conversationalist,
right?
So
you're not my type. Stay out my box.
Right. So that's why you can identify when they say, hey, right? That's why you can identify that. You have more experience on what you like and what you dislike. So yeah, you're gonna cut them off day one.
We know.
Man, it's a good discussion, man. Like, how y'all feeling, man? Y'all all right?
Good. So we just not gonna talk about the Cam Newton thing at all?
I mean, that Cam Newton thing was a mess, man. Like, that lady made good points, but she gaslit him a little bit too.
Oh goodness.
She gaslit him a little bit too.
Yeah, talked about it. We talked about it yesterday up on King.
Well.
Yeah, I mean, but we can briefly, because it's a different panel, different people. If y'all want to go ahead and dive into it, I'll do it.
I almost don't even want to touch it.
Why?
I don't even want to talk about it just for the sake of praising Dr. Bryant and saying Cam looks ridiculous, but I'm going to say after watching that, even some of the men that I know had lost a little bit of respect for him because of the way that he appeared to be intentionally misunderstanding her a lot of the times. And I think he exhibited, and it was kind of just he disregarded all of her accomplishments and everything that she was qualified for, all of her qualifications, like in an effort to try to humble her. And
she disregarded him too. She called his families broken, which I thought was
they are. But you can choose to be offended by that, but that doesn't negate whether or not it's the truth.
Well, this is the thing, right?
These are things that are easily defined. He also said
he's actively in his children's lives
single because if that implies that they're not getting any help. That's not what single means. Single means unmarried, without a spouse, or in one person raising a child. That's what a single parent is, and that's exactly what either he's doing or the baby mother's doing. You talk about semantics. That he was playing that a whole lot. But ultimately, you are creating broken homes. They are. It's nothing.
I think
to say
that
wrong with saying that.
To say that his homes are broken, you would have to have intimate knowledge of how he deals with his children and the women that he has those children with on a date. You would have to, because there seems to be because with a lot of these type of men that have a lot of children, there seems to be like this assumption that about their character that they're not around. Like there's always this assumption that they're just creating these families and that their presence is not there. And that's an assumption that I don't think is fair to make, especially when you're talking about guys who have the money to physically be present in many places at once. I'm not just talking about having the money to buy the kids what they need, but I'm talking about for one, you have guys that have the money to be able to travel so they can physically be in multiple places. Two, you're talking about guys who have the money to provide for the women who have their children. So those women, their 24-hour job is being mothers. Those women, a lot of those women don't have jobs. They're not working for a living. They're taking care of those kids. So this idea
now that's
that
an assumption.
So, well, sure, that's an assumption. Cool. But what I'm saying is the idea that somehow these children aren't cared for or like aren't being guided or raised, I feel like that's just like why is that the assumption that everyone makes? It's
She
like there's no
specifically
evidence.
said to him that she wasn't doubting that he was a good father. She specifically said that when she set this whole thing up. She made sure to stroke his
doesn't work.
She made sure to stroke his ego just enough so that she could get her point across. She did not say it made him a bad father. But having money, you talking about physics. You talking about science. That money don't mean shit. You literally can never be in more than one place at one time. Like let's be factual about these things.
Okay.
Two, to have 3 different families essentially is what he has, because they have different heads of the households, because he's not the head of those households. The mother is. He's the common bond between all these kids, but each household is different and he's not heading them. So being absent in that way is what she's referring to. It's not being absent from their lives.
What I'm saying is this, right?
In their lives.
If
he's not at home, and there is a big difference between waking up with your mother and father than not.
If he wasn't a
Like, why
football
we keep
player,
pretending like that's
hold
not
on.
important?
I just want to give a little context, right? If he wasn't a football player and it wasn't 3 women, right? So let's say he had one woman that he was married to, got a divorce, and then married another woman and had a blended family. Because her entire thing was, she said that a blended family is a broken family. That was her parameters for what made his family broken. It had nothing to do with how the children were raised. It had nothing to do with the amount of love in the family. It had nothing to do with whether the children were provided for. Her only criteria was that the family was blended. Now, why I think that's disingenuous is because if he wasn't a football player and he was a mechanic who was married to his first wife and they had a child, and then he had gotten divorced from his wife and then married another woman, nobody would be calling his families broken. But the families are still blended.
We would, and we do.
The family, if he was married and wasn't a football player and he had a regular 9-to-5 job, they would be saying he's a good man who stepped it up. And
why do you think him being a football player makes him a target? Why do you think that matters to us?
Because our thing
is the children. Why do you think we care about him being a football player?
I think that single successful men are demonized. I think that, and especially when they're working a career, especially a career that brings them a lot of fame, such as entertainment, such as sports, I think they get demonized. There's like this idea that because they do sports or entertainment, that they're not competent men, that they're not quality men. But and I know it's an assumption people make that athletes are somehow dumb, that entertainers, that athletes are somehow dumb, that entertainers are somehow reckless. So besides the fact that he was a football player and he has these 3 women in his lives, would it be different if he was polygamous and married all 3 of them? What
yes,
would change?
It would, because if he was polygamous and married them all, they would all live in the same
Well, he can't
house.
legally do that because there's a law called bigamy against that.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, why my thing is, because he can't legally marry 3 women, why is it not enough that he's taking care of his responsibilities? Because why is it not enough that he's being a father to his children, that I'm sure he financially takes care of the women that he has the children with. So if he's doing all of those things, where's the actual problem?
We're trying to tell you, but I think
I
you
feel
don't
like
want to
people are
accept
acting
it.
like they're concerned about the kids, right? This is what people are making it sound like, we're concerned about the kids.
For sure.
There are 2 family, hold on. There are married 2-family homes where both parents work overtime to pay for their house. And the kid spends less time with the 2 parents that are married than they might spend with one of Cam Newton's baby moms who don't have to work because he pays all the bills. So if we're looking at quality time, right? His kids probably have more face-to-face time with a parent on a regular basis than the average child in a 2-family household.
Impossible,
because
but
in an
let's.
average 2-family household, both parents are working. I know when I grew up, both of my parents was working from 9 to 5. When I came home from school at 2:30 or whatever the case was, nobody wasn't home. Nobody wasn't there. Now, there's a lot of shit I could have got into during that time, but no one would ever say my family's broken, and no one would ever question my family's ability because they're married. But now, because he's not married and living with the woman he has children, it's like, oh, he's somehow unable to raise his children. I think that's ridiculous.
That's not what
Me
she
personally.
said, though. So I can
Well, she
see why
said
you
that his
think that's
family was broken
ridiculous,
based off
because
of the
that's
fact that
not
it
what
was
she said,
blended.
though.
And blending your family doesn't mean that your family's broken. A broken family is a family
It
that
does.
doesn't work.
Even if you're married and divorced and you
I'm gonna
went and
tell
got married again and divorced, it's still the same thing. I think you just don't like the way that broken
No. If you
sounds.
got married and
But
divorced, that would
broken,
actually qualify as broken. But he was never married to these women, so how can they be broken?
the homes are broken. That's just the way it is.
The
Like,
homes are
we
not
don't like the way it
traditional.
sounds, but
No, the
unfortunately,
homes
that's
are
what
just
it
not
is.
traditional. The homes aren't nuclear, but that doesn't mean that the homes are broken.
Which we know is
You don't know the quality of lives that his
best
children
that you
live.
can. But we know the problem is that we have enough breakdown in the Black community already. So to be avoiding doing the things that we know can put us in a better situation and put our children in the best environment. There have been studies done that tell us this is the best environment for children. We instead want to sit up and
Why are we
argue
assuming
about
his
him being a
children are not
football
in good
player,
environments?
and that
does
being
anybody have kids on the panel?
His children probably
Does anybody have
have
kids?
access to better
I don't have
schools.
children.
Okay, anybody have kids? Okay.
His children probably have access to better schools, better health care,
No,
better
that we're not talking
education.
about somebody
They
being from
probably
the
have
dad.
more. They probably have more one-on-one time with their mother than the average child in America.
I'm gonna say this,
So-
Cloud. I'm gonna say this because I have children, right? I'm gonna read the definition of broken. It's having been fractured or damaged and no longer in one piece or in working order. I think, and I didn't know this when I was younger, right? And I didn't know this when I was a young parent about how much sacrifice it takes and how much time it takes for both parents to be present in them children's life. Now, unfortunately, I know there are some unusual circumstances where somebody has to be the breadwinner. So you're not going to have one of the parents in the home. That's just been the norm, and people got to do what they got to do. But just to speak about what the child and children need, they need both of them more than what we are commonly seeing today. I think even if we take out the word broken, I still think that a lot of kids are not getting the attention and the time that they need from the parents. And one of the things that I've been actively doing, and it probably took, for my youngest to be able to make sure that I'm readily available and willing to even sacrifice more in order to be able to give them what they need. Because as I've been getting educated and learning and understanding like what it truly means to parent, like those kids, if it's not under the same household, the kids are missing out. Like the kids are missing out. Now, what his situation looks like in particular, I can't speak on it because I haven't did a deep dive research on what's going on with him exactly. But just speaking as a parent, a lot of kids get into a lot of different things. Even when you speak about your situation, I understand they have to do what they have to do, but it still doesn't mean that you got everything that you needed from them. But they did the best that they could. So given that information, whenever you decide to have children, then you have to see if you could put yourself in a better situation so that you can give them the life that you probably never had, or you can spend more time with them, more time than what your parents was able to do.
Right.
So I really want to share something, and I'm going to break something down. And we're very passionate about it towards the end. He can't legally marry all three. However, he can create contracts legally with all three of them, if that's the direction he chose to, right? Because unfortunately, in this country at this moment, we do not have a law where you can marry multiple women, and that's another conversation for another night. But me understanding this is that that's not the most ideal situation for most people, and most people can't really create that kind of family dynamic, right? I think there is a cultural mindset and a sort of upbringing and teaching that is fostered around responsibility, duty for a man to be in that kind of relationship dynamic. And I just don't think that a lot of men or black men have been cultured in that kind of particular way, because it's not really all based on foundational money. Money's good, but principles, value systems. I keep going back to these things because they're the glue that which holds a lot of families together. Killer Mike's, famous line was always fix the family first, right? You got to get your house in order and get things in a proper way. Blended families is a norm. Sorry, it's starting to become that. The more we have no fault divorce, where we have eroded the edges of what relationship dynamics are and what they're about and how people really meet and come together today. It seems that a lot of people are much more temporary than they are for a long term relationship, fruitful relationship at that. And we talk about the kids, and this is another point that I hit because that's what brought up. We talk about the kids, but you know what's so interesting? How many black people are adopting young black boys and young black girls? You know how many young black boys and young black girls are in the foster care system? Do you guys have any clue how many young black boys and young black girls who need a loving, caring, warm home with a warm meal, with a nice clothes on their back and a roof over their head, in a support system for people who care about them and love them, who understands them? I don't see people running towards, to grab one of their own, right, to help adopt them, push them and guide them in their direction and journey in life. He has 8 kids, 2 of which are adopted, the other 6 biological. That says a lot more about his stride in that sort of dynamic. Mind you, I'm not defending his lifestyle and how he leads. I'm just pointing out things in terms of how they appear in context, because we're so quick to throw a rock, not knowing that we live in glass houses, right? And we need to do a deeper dive and evaluation in terms of how we view ourselves within the community. And we talk about kids because at times it's F them kids, and then in the other breath is like, well, what about the kids in broken homes and stuff like that? Well, if we really want to save these kids, have 1 or 2 yourself, maybe adopt one. Won't we champion around a culture that champions that, right? If we're trying to fix things and we're trying to uplift the foundational erosion of this community, then why we don't start by doing that? Because the kids are our future. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to retire in like 20 plus years. Somebody needs to replace me in what I do. And I'd rather be people that look like us, right? So if we're going to make such a hard stand on one particular man who might be in a particular type of industry, who might make a particular type of money, let's view this whole thing holistically for all types of men at all different economic and social brackets, And I'll make this one last point before I land. I find it interesting that we tend to kind of lean into celebrities far too often to get our anecdotal insight how family dynamics not work. And I'm pretty confident that a lot of people, even the people listening here tonight, grew up with a neighbor that was a Mr. Smith, Mr. Rogers, who lived down the street, who was married for 25, 30 years to his wife, who had 2 beautiful kids, who sent them off to college, who was a staple in his community, who goes to his local church, who's an outstanding and pristine individual to learn from and to get mentorship from. But we don't value those individuals because they don't come with the glitz and the glamours and everything else that we sort of quote unquote value today. Again, it goes down to principles, it goes down to value systems. Where is that? Where does that show up? And if it doesn't show up anywhere and we have no pedestal in which we stand on, then why are we demanding all these other things from people when we don't even demand the same requirements for ourselves? So I yield.
Well, if nothing else, I think Dr. Bryant is bringing awareness to people. I think it's making, men, women look at things from a different perspective. So as far as looking at celebrities in a certain way, that's just what's out there now. And those are the people who are being paid attention to.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to add a little bit to one little nuance too. When it comes to these guys like Cam Newton and Nick Cannon and their children, right? I think another thing people are vastly overlooking is, like, if we're talking about family, Nick Cannon's children have more parents, and Cam Newton's kids have more parents than the average child. So if you really think about it, there's more adults contributing to of Nick Cannon's children than, let's say, if a guy with one wife had 8 kids. So if we're going to have a problem with Nick Cannon having his 8 or 12 kids, then you got to have a problem with one man and women have 8 or 12 kids, because for Nick Cannon's 8 or 12 kids, there's 6 people that are taking care of and raising them.
Where'd you get that?
Whereas with a husband and wife, for example, a 2-family household where they might have 8 kids, it's only 2 people raising those 8 kids. So
That's
it's like,
you have.
So if we're going off it logistically, that the outrage doesn't actually make common sense. Logistically, numbers wise, it doesn't make sense, because each of Nick Cannon's children have access to more adults than the average 2-family household has. So technically, those children are more cared for than the average child, because they have more adults that they can turn to for support that are actually their family members, that are actually related to them.
Are they all in the same household? Because
we don't know that. We don't know that, but why are we assuming that they're not? Why are we? My thing is this, right? We see these guys have these families. Why do we make the assumption that their families aren't in order? Like Nick Cannon's baby moms. He got all these baby moms. I haven't heard one of them talk bad about him publicly. I haven't heard one of them say he don't take care of his kids. We haven't heard nothing about Nick Cannon's baby moms.
Did you hear him say himself that he feels guilty about not being able to be in more than one place at the same time? Did you hear him say that?
Hold on. Yes,
so
I heard him
how
say
we
that.
know.
Hold on. But that is not because of the amount of kids he has. That's because of his business. That would be the
no, it's not.
Nick Cannon would have the same problems if he only had 2 kids. His kids still wouldn't see him, because Nick Cannon is a high performer. He owns multiple businesses. He was doing like 3 primetime television shows at once at one point. The dude runs a production company. He's like one of the top execs at Nickelodeon. Like, and he's constantly touring, doing comedy, wilding out. Dude is a
so that's more
man.
important than your children, because I think
I'm not
if you're
saying
a boss and you got all this money,
no. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, though, what I'm saying is, no. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, y'all wouldn't put the same pressure on Obama, because I guarantee you his daughters didn't get to see him that much neither. I guarantee you Barack Obama's daughters didn't spend as much. I guarantee you Barack Obama's daughters probably spent less time with him while he was president than Cam Newton's kids spend with Cam Newton. He's playing for 1 season a year. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a disingenuous argument, because it's not like we've never heard of high functioning men not having time to be home before. This isn't the only reason y'all care is because he has multiple women. If he had one woman with the same lifestyle and the same amount of kids, no one would be complaining. It's just because it's a black guy with multiple women. It's just because it's a black guy with multiple women.
Nobody cares about you having multiple women. You would have made a bunch of kids with these multiple women.
If Cam Newton had all his kids,
if
Cam Newton had all his kids with one woman and had the same exact career, nobody would be questioning whether or not his kids are taken care of.
Of course not, because that's the way you do it. That's called a family.
But what I'm saying is, in that situation, it's actually logistically possible that those children are receiving less care. So that's proof to me that y'all are not concerned about the level of care that the children are getting. It's more about policing the way he lives his life. It's more about, we don't like the fact that he's free to live this way. We think he should be living a certain way, even though we have no evidence that this is negatively impacting his children. There's no evidence.
We do have evidence. We have tons of studies that support.
What's wrong with his children?
I mentioned that already.
What's wrong with Cam's children?
You're not listening to what I'm saying. We don't know yet, because we don't know those children personally. Excuse me. Wait. But what we do know is that there has been research and study done on this topic in particular, and it has been decided and discovered that the nuclear family is
There
the
has
best
been
move
no
for us.
research
You're
done
not, so I can't
on
finish what I'm saying.
No, hold
multi-millionaire
on,
men.
y'all. One at a time. Let's make sure we're not
You
talking over
asked
each
me
other.
you asked me
Go
where
ahead, go
that
ahead, go ahead.
evidence was, and I'm telling you exactly where it is. It's in all the studies that we've done to figure out how to better advance the Black community. We know what it takes. We know that it's causing more harm than good for Black men to go around making multiple children. He ain't even got the most. Eight, and like you said, 2 of them are adopted. They're not adopted from the orphanage. They're adopted from his other baby mama, but there are men that are doing worse than that. And there is nothing, the thing is, there's nothing progressive about it. It's not helping anything.
As
It's
far
not
as I'm
making
concerned,
anything better.
as far as I'm concerned, the only problem with making multiple children is if you are not fathering and supporting those children. If you are a
Financially,
father,
right?
no,
They don't need you
I
otherwise. As
notice
long as
I
you
didn't
can
say
pay.
financially. I said fathering and supporting, right? So if you're fathering those children, raising them, giving them advice, if you're being an active father while also financially supporting your children, and if the mothers are being active mothers, then I don't see what the problem is with an active father and active mothers raising their children with an abundance of money. I don't see a problem with that. I think people are worried about the wrong thing. It's a bunch of people that are complaining about Cam Newton's situation. They got baby moms that they not taking care of. They got kids that they not taking care of and got situations worse than Cam Newton's situation. But people are worried about whether this multimillionaire can take care of his children. I'm pretty
That's
sure
not
he
what
can
we
figure
worried
it
about.
out. I'm pretty sure this
The
multimillionaire.
father on the
What are your
panel
celebrities
just
doing now?
spoke,
Yeah.
and
All I'm saying is I'm pretty sure his kids will be fine. All the people pretending they're so
you're not
concerned
sure of
about
that. There's
his
no way to be
wealthy
sure of
children,
that.
I'm pretty sure his wealthy children will get a great education. I'm pretty sure they have plenty of family time with their parents. I'm pretty sure they eat healthy meals, and I'm pretty sure they have roofs over their heads. What people need to be worrying about is their own kids that don't have roof over their heads, that don't have clean clothes. These kids that are going to school, and can't even read past the second grade reading level. You got people that are married have kids that are running the street. But they worried about Cam Newton's rich children. I don't understand that. They're rich and they're taken care of. Maybe he's not living a lifestyle that most people would agree with. However, to call his situation broken when you don't know, to me is crazy. There's a lot of people with worse situations than his. There's a lot of guys out there with more kids that aren't raising their kids at all. Let's worry about them. Let's not worry about the rich niggas that are taking care of their kids.
All right, I got you. Let's check with Kelly first, and then Luis. Kelly, you want to add anything?
No, I think as he was talking, I just wanted to say, let's take the finances out of it and then look at it differently. Because of course, these are rich men that we're talking about. Obama, Cam Newton, Nick Cannon. They have the resources to send their kids wherever they are, to spend time with them. And just because Nick Cannon's shooting shows or whatever, his kids can be with him on set. Okay, it's not a situation where he can't afford that. So let's just take the financial aspect out of it and do a comparison to a regular man that's having, or should I say, an average man, who has multiple families and they cannot afford to do the same things that they can do. So I don't think it's so much focused on a rich nigga who blah, blah, blah. I think it's just a comparison to men in general. Like, yeah, if it was a man who had 3 or 4 families, of course he's not going to be able to do the same thing. So let's just take the finances out of it and then analyze things.
Okay, if we take out the finances, is he present in his children's lives? Does he raise them? Does he educate them? Does he teach them? Does he protect them? Does he provide? If he does all of those things, well, to say when he's around is like all fathers that are working to provide for their children, especially high income producing fathers, usually they're not around a lot.
When he's working, not when he's laid up with somebody else making more. All right, children, but that's
what
not
I'm
work.
saying is, whether he's laid up or not, okay, you can use that argument, right? But the thing is, whether if he had 8 children by one woman, right? while he's spending time and caring for one child, he might not be spending time and caring for another child. So
Well, it's
anybody,
highly likely that he's not.
so anybody who has multiple children and responsibilities in their life is going to have their time split, period. So my thing is like, if we know that, why is the standard different for him? Every father has their time split, especially when they're trying to provide for their children. Again, when I brought up Obama, right? Nobody batted an eye at the idea that maybe Obama, nobody would say Obama's home is broken because he was busy running a country for 4 years.
Because that's not what a broken home means. Obama is the worst example you could have used.
The reason why I'm using Obama's example, because if we compare the time thing, right? Cam Newton goes away for multiple months a year to be able to do his job, so he's not home.
I get what you're saying.
President Barack Obama, he's running a country, he has to be away from home. So what I'm saying is, why is it that we're poorly judging this career's version of not being home, but we're not poorly judging the other one? The president is away from his kids.
Barack Obama now, and where was he before he became president? Because he was only president for 8 years of their lives, in which most of the time those children did travel with him and with security. He ain't traveling every single day just because he's the president.
Hold on, I'm not saying his children didn't travel with him, but the point that I'm making is, if you're an ambitious person, an ambitious man, the chances that you're going to be around your kids all the time is not realistic. Most ambitious men are not around their kids that much. That's why they want stay-at-home moms. That's why they want stay-at-home wives, because they know their career requires so much of them that in order for the children to get the love and nurturing they need a woman who doesn't work. So what I'm saying is, you're talking about a man. What I'm saying is, you're talking about a man who has multiple women under his leadership, under his provision and protection to take care of his children. His children are not wanting.
If he live in a different state. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Luis. Was you about?
All right. You're living in a different state. Again, you're thinking from the perspective of someone who can't hop on a private jet and be anywhere in an hour.
It still takes an hour. By the time you get there in an hour, the robbers already broke in and took everything.
It already takes most parents an hour to get from work to home to go pick up their kids. It takes most parents an hour. So why is it different? Because it's taking him an hour by jet, but it's taking you an hour to drive from work to go pick up your son from daycare. It's no different. Your kids will probably be in daycare for 7 hours a day, and his kids probably won't see him for 7 hours a day, just like most families. But it's just that y'all weigh it against them differently because they're famous to have multiple women.
Is that louder?
Cloud. I see the dynamic that is being displayed. I mean, let me ask you a quick question, Alicia, before I deep dive. What is your ideal dynamic? What, for you, and then what is your sort of ideal direction that most Black people should be going into?
I think the traditional concept of a nuclear family, like we said, so mother and father in the home. I don't believe that the mother should default to being a primary parent, because I think the role of a father is equally as important to the nurturing role of a mother. Marriage before we go and even get into all of this kid shit, because I think we have to establish the way that our family is going to succeed and move forward. And I think one of the reasons I am anti-polygamy, right? Because you have, well, I guess it might work in that sense, because they're very diplomatic about things, and they actually discuss a lot of things that just two people don't. But I think it's really important to define the morals and values that your family wants to represent. And that's different for everybody, which is probably why he ends up leaving one woman to go to another, right? He's seeking something. So I think let's get married. Let's talk about what the purpose and plan is for having children. Let's have them together. Don't be having no outside babies on me, because I don't want no man walking away from his children or leaving his children nowhere. Like, as a woman, I can't be with a man knowing that he has children in another state, even if he is living in the house with me and mine.
I hear you. And I know where you're coming from. My submission is that I find that a lot of young people, or people in their 30s who are trying to start family, they're trying to balance this delicate dance between career, between business ventures that they have going on. You know, like the woman has her own thing going on, the man has his own thing going on, and they're trying to, you know, figure it out and figure where all the pieces out, and they want to have a family, but somebody has to take a back seat. Somebody has to scale back. And there are certain conventions that need to be in place in that relationship dynamic. And that higher level of conversation is something that is not happening. And we need to understand that in today's economy, in today's society, how everything is structured and what's going on, I think that parents need to be a little bit more hands-on because of everything that people are trying to impress upon and push upon your children. You need to have a very high safety guard for them. You know what I'm saying? It's not the days that you could just go play in the playground. There are so many other factors that come into play. With that being said, we've removed the idea of village. We're talking about the nuclear family like it's just mother, father, child, or child two, right? And that's it. Like we've forgotten this entire village concept, right? We don't even live in communities with each other anymore. Like you have your grandma who lives like the state over or 5 towns over or an hour and a half away, or your cousin, you're all dispersed. Nobody lives in compounds or in a close village where, hey, I need to work, I have an emergency, and I can leave my children with my family who have their own place where we live in close proximity and we have the best interest of looking out for each other, as opposed to leaving your children with a stranger or with some babysitter or at daycare, or I got to run to the other side of town to drop off my kid at an establishment that I feel that is good for daycare, and then run in the opposite direction where I got to go. This is a true factor that is going on in most young developing professionals in parenting. You know, I talk about this. I've studied this because during the pandemic, we talked about what are solutions for people who are working from home and how they navigate, you know, daycare and stuff like that. You got to blend in together, like, you know, work, family in the same sort of vertical system. How does that work? And I talk about this because we forget that it takes a village to raise a child, and you need a support system. You need a support group. We don't talk about that. We just say man, woman, child. Like,
I think personally, I don't have either of my parents anymore. I have one sister, right? So who has her own family. I think we forget that not everybody has that village setup anymore, and for various reasons. So that's why I speak from the perspective that I do. But I think you were saying something about someone having to take the back seat, and I think maybe you were asking me what my position was as far as like being a stay-at-home mom. Maybe is that where you were trying to get to?
Sometimes it's not so much of staying at home mom, because like, for example, if you're in a relationship or a marriage with someone, right, and we're like, look, I work a very demanding and, you know, strenuous job, and plus I also handle other aspects of this family. Can we discuss talking about maybe you having a home-based business, or you working from home, or maybe potentially could we talk about having someone come to the house 2 times a week and they help cook and probably offset all these other duties that you would normally have, and take that stress off of you, and take
that is the conversation I would have before I even got married. I think that's what
but see, this is the thing. We're having a higher level of conversation. A lot of people are not having these types of conversations, and unfortunately, a lot of people can't afford to put these sort of systems in place for them. This is why I go back to that village, that community sense, helping each other and bartering with each other in the same type of way. Because if I'm looking out for you, I'm sorry?
I said, or just not having kids if you can't afford it.
That's another factor too, but that now we're gonna get down a very slippery slope, and we don't want to go there.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to change the subject. Go ahead.
Mind if I just let me just cut in real quick, because I'm glad that you brought up that point, Luis, about the village, right? Because essentially the point I've been trying to make tonight is that although Cam and Nick's situations are different and they aren't the ideal, I think what's being overlooked about them is they have a village. So while we may be looking at their situation as broken, they have it. There's advantages to that village that we might be overlooking. And I can say that particularly, I'm gonna use one of my family members as an example, my sister. My sister was married, she got divorced. Her ex-husband has other baby mothers. He's a very high functioning dude. Takes care of all his kids. Before he married my sister, he was taking care of all of his kids. High functioning dude. All his baby mothers are taken care of. My sister's taken care of. Everybody's taken care of. Because of the connection that they all have as a family, they support each other. So there are times where one of the baby moms has things she needs to do and can't look after her daughter, where my sister might do it, and vice versa. The baby mothers help each other. They go to games together. They organize birthday parties together. They plan things together. And so the children don't view the baby moms as like, oh, that's like an enemy or something like that. They view each one as like kind of like a part of the family. So when it comes to traveling, when it comes to organizing things, if one of them is sick, one of them needs to be picked up from school, all those type of situations, they have a huge network of support because of those women. So I'm imagining that if Nick Cannon's situation is anything like that, then that means that I don't know how many women he has children. I think it's like 6. But that means that he actually has 6 women that he can call on in any situation involving his children. That means that there's 6 households that those children can go to. That means that there's 6 set of siblings that those children have as far as just making social bonds, friendships. I think that village that they've built can offset a lot of the negatives of him not necessarily being married. Also, Alicia, you said something about defining like the parameters of what the relationship will be. And my pushback would be that a marriage is not the only way that you can do that. A marriage is a great way to do that. But even in some marriages, that doesn't happen, which is why divorces happen so often. So I just think that if the man is doing his job as a leader and taking that leadership role over the women that he has the children with, and he is playing the provider role and is playing the protector role and is being a father to his children, then I think those circumstances can't be called broken. Those are more villages. Now, however, if he was just having these kids and these kids can't call daddy, they don't got no money, they starving, like they don't know where they're going to sleep. They don't know if they got a roof over their head. The mom got to work 3 jobs and she's never home for the kids. Then I would say, okay, now we need to put a lens to this because clearly this man is not functioning enough to be able to handle the responsibilities that he's created. But if he's handling the responsibilities that he's created, then I don't think that we should be judging him. I think that we should honor him as this is a man. Maybe we can say he made some mistakes because personally, I'm not making kids out of wedlock personally. That's not what I'm going to do. So I can say, yeah, they made mistakes in that regard. However, if they're being men about it and being responsible, then we can't talk down about those men. Those are men. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Their God-given duty. They're taking care of their responsibilities. And I don't see how any situation where men taking control of their responsibilities is a bad thing. I'm gonna land there.
So I wanted to say that you said Nick Cannon has 6 women that he can call and one, how do you know that they all get along? So like we really can't speak on that.
Potentially. I'm saying potentially. I'm not saying I know that. I'm saying potentially.
It is a 50% chance that they are, right? But it's also a 50% chance that they absolutely hate each other.
Facts,
And
we already
know, we do know for a fact that they don't all live in the same state. So realistically, we also know for a fact that Mariah Carey is not watching them other folks' babies. We know that. We know that's not happening. So there's a set of siblings that will be, yes, we do. Nick,
how do we know that?
We know that. We've seen enough we've heard Mimi talk about this enough to know that she's not playing that role with Nick and all of those other children that he made. And he has his two with her first. She's not down for that. She's not in that community
You
that
think
he's
if
talking
her
about.
kid
So
said,
then you
"Mom
have
and Dad," you think if her kid said, "Mommy, I want my brother to come over,"
Yeah, one at a time.
I'm sorry, I just
you
want to
have a
ask a
set of
question real quick.
siblings.
I just want to
No,
ask a
but I'm
question
still going.
about
You
this
have a
statement.
set of siblings
Oh,
that
hold on,
are
Ty, hold on, Ty, let him finish.
disenfranchised, right? Or that are always going to be separated based off the fact that that was the one woman that he married. You don't think those children are going to grow up and ask why daddy didn't marry my mommy? Like, that's damaging in itself. Then
I
the
think it depends
lifestyle
on the
that they
children.
all
I think
have.
it depends on how the children are raised to think about marriage. So if they're being raised in a traditional Christian
they're
family,
being raised to not
they're being,
value it. The example is there.
so that's my point. So my point is,
So
if
you
they
think
are
that's
being
the show?
raised, let me answer you. If they are being raised to not value traditional marriage, then no, they would not be questioning daddy as to why he didn't marry them, because in their mind, they would already understand that we don't value traditional marriage in this household.
Which is
Now,
so.
if they grew up, which personally, I value marriage. All I'm saying is, though, I'm not going to say that someone that doesn't value marriage is necessarily creating a problem for the community. They may not value marriage, but if he's taking care of them kids, and if he's taking care of those women, and he's doing his job in that sense, and he's doing work that enriches the community, then as far as I'm concerned, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, even if he's not married.
You know, today I saw a clip of Master P talking to his daughter who passed away from a drug overdose.
Mm-hmm.
There you have a man that's financially capable of taking care of his daughter, but he was probably on the road a lot and traveling around and fucking with bitches and all kind of things. Do you think that his fame, or, well, see, I'm not really sure if Master P is not a family man, but I think he's divorced now. But do you think that having enough money can prevent your children from falling through the cracks?
I don't think there's anything you can do to 100% prevent your children from falling through the cracks. I think you can raise your children well with
But how
principles
can you
of
do?
God.
How can you
I think
grade
they
in their
could be raised in a
chances?
two-family. I think you can increase their chances by imparting them with as much wisdom as possible, no matter what your circumstance. Like, if you're active in your children's lives, I think they're less likely to have a bad life. Obviously, we know the statistics. Children raised in single households fare much worse off than children in two-parent households. So I do understand that. I'm just saying that even marriages fail sometimes. Even Christian people raise children that die of drug overdoses. You know what I mean? Like, you can't prevent failures. Failures are going to happen. Some children, no matter what life you give them, they're going to choose to become a serial killer. It is what it is. But I'm just saying that I don't think we should beat up these guys that are trying.
Nobody's beating them up. We're asking them to be accountable for what they did. And I think evading
they already are.
Embarrassing.
And
they're not.
But
they're
this is
making excuses for themselves, just like you're making excuses for them.
This is why I feel as though it's them being beat up, because it's like they are being accountable for actions. They're taking care of their children. There's no reports out there that Nick Cannon and Cam Newton are not taking care of their children. That's not the argument.
They are financially supporting their children. Yes, we know that. But
what I'm saying is there haven't been any reports that they're not.
Support.
But there haven't been any reports that they're not physically present as well. Like, I'm
we
sure
know,
they have relationships.
It doesn't have to be, because we know that he can't be in 11 places at the same time.
Obviously, you can't be in 11 places at once. But what I'm saying is you can still have a healthy, fruitful relationship with your child, even if you have a work schedule that doesn't permit you to be around all the time. That's all I'm saying. I think it's about quality versus quantity. So if I'm spending quality time with my child, but I only get to see them once a week, but that once a week they know that they're loved, and that once a week they know they're cared for, and they don't have a want in the world during that once a week, then I'm sure they'll fare better than a parent who's home every day but doesn't pay attention to their kid because they're too busy stressed about bills, or they're working 2 or 3 shifts. That parent who's stressed over them 2 or 3 shifts might ignore their child every single day. Meanwhile, me, the parent who's on tour 6 months out the year, the other 6 months though, I'm with them every day. So I'm just saying, until we get more information about the nuances of how they're raising their family, I don't think it's fair to call their homes broken, especially when they're doing their best to actively be in those homes and keep those homes together. It's like
So we know
I
the
think
definition of broken,
title,
right? You gave it to us earlier, the definition of broken, right?
Yeah, broken. Well,
you still have that pulled up.
Lapeef gave the definition, but
Yeah, and I think according to that definition, that's just where it's coming from. It's like not an attack. It's just calling it what it is.
I would say that's fair. The doctor though, that wasn't what she used. Her reasoning was your family's broken because it's blended, and that I still vehemently disagree with. If she was to say, okay, it's broken because it's not, you guys aren't one unit, okay, maybe that I could accept that. That's a fair argument. Good.
Well, I think presence matters as far as the outcome of your child. And it's like she said, it's hard to be present in 11 places at one time. Now, granted, Nick Cannon can afford to bring his 11 to 12 or 30 kids to wherever he is, but that's just not what applies to average.
And how much money do we really think he got with all of those kids and women in households?
I don't know. I don't
Who
know
talking about
his
Nick
business.
Cannon?
Because I feel like we be talking about them. Cam Newton too. He don't even play no more. So how long y'all think this?
Apparently he owns like a big trucking company, and he doesn't play no more. So what makes y'all think he's not home? That's my point. He don't even play no more. He's not playing football.
Because he stay laid up making
I
a
don't know
baby.
Cam Newton's situation.
No,
I just know
he
that he has
a podcast. That's it.
I just know that he has
All right,
multiple.
so let's get back on. Let's go ahead and get back on track and see what we can take away from this situation.
Let's get back on track. There's no single woman above 30 who is happy being.
No, I wasn't talking about. I wasn't talking about that. I was just trying to say we could take some things from this because I like to always bring up this spectrum. What you say, Louise?
Let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Okay.
No, I said she rolled the clock way back.
Yeah. So what we could take away from this is I like to have a spectrum, and which side of the spectrum I want to be on. You got the middle right here. You got the more pro, more con. I'd rather be on the more pro side. So how can I eliminate as many possibilities of having an unhealthy environment, whatever that may look like, right? Probably going to be subjective to each person, and you need to do what's best for you. But I would choose to be more present as much as I can. I would choose more stability, a more healthy structure, a more nuclear. Now, people have created situations, they made their bed, so they got to lay in it. And then once you get to that point, you're going to have to try to figure out the best way to handle your situation. But if we think before we do a lot of things, then I think we'll probably be in a better space 9 times out of 10. So let's do more thinking before we bring children into the mix, because once you bring children into the mix, it truly deserves a big sacrifice. So that's what I would kind of take away from it, man. Just don't create the kids, and you won't
single and over 30 and happy. I'm telling you,
I ain't making none until I'm sure we locked in for life.
Yeah, that's how I look at it, man. That way you ain't got to worry about them babies, man, because it's some folks out there that just be out in the streets and their kids be at the crib, hungry as hell, and they don't even care. It's some folks that go out and they feel guilty because they know they should be at the house and they out in the streets. I've been one of them people that'd be like, man, I just feel like I'm not spending enough time. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any children, but I do know that children are a huge responsibility. And I think a lot of women choose not to have them because of just that. They'd rather not deal with it, especially when you see so many men who are divorced, who are baby daddies or whatever. They just don't want to take on that responsibility or take that chance. What about you, Alicia?
What as far as having children or why I don't?
Right. What would be your reason?
Well, Well, one, I'm single, so I'm just not having children without having a husband first, or someone that's going to commit to me. And then, because children should be a part of your plan for life, right? Like, because I also might meet someone and we might get to a point where we decide we both don't want children. But like, that's something, like, I don't want just children, I want a family, if
Exactly.
anything.
Right.
But my family can also just be me and my partner.
Yes.
Um, but I think what's happening is like women are, men are evading the responsibility of being husbands. They have no problem signing up to be fathers because most of the time, the
Mm-hmm.
woman is the primary parent, right? Like, so I'm avoiding any man in that mindset.
That's
What?
not ready to take the full
I don't.
commitment.
So let me
I
ask
don't
a
think they're
question.
being husbands, but go ahead, Louis. I want you to go, Luis.
Yeah, let me ask a question because I've heard the sentiment shared a few times tonight, and it makes me wonder what type of interaction are these women having with these said men that they're not able to pick up on their inability to be punctual, the inability to be responsible, the inability to hold a job,
They
the
lie.
inability to hold, invest their money, balance a checkbook, feed themselves, right? Keep their place in order. Like there's some aspect of their lives that these women have to have seen. You had to have gone over his house. You have to have looked in his refrigerator, his file cabinet, his bedrooms. You know what I'm saying? You've had to have gotten a look at, how he maintains and keeps his car, like how he talks about his work and how ambitious he is. He's like, I'm working on that next promotion. I'm working on, moving up in the company. Working on doing that next thing. Where's the hunger? Where's the promotion? There are these receipts, these conversational receipts that happen along the way in the dating process, right? We're getting to know each other. We're talking about who we are, the things that we value, the things that we enjoy doing, and the things that we do for others, and how we show up in the world, right? Where do those things lie? These women are not waking up on Thursday, going out on Friday, and finding Derek, down at Lucy Goose, the jazz spot. And next thing you know, they're like, I think I love this guy, and they're off to the races without her at least investing some sort of insight about what is it about this man? How does he move? How does he handle conflict? How does he handle conflict? How does he handle rejection? Like, all these insights for you to like be able to kind of put together a calculus to say this man is a good investment. Like I could see this man being my husband first and foremost. I could see this man being the father of my children. If these women are just waking up and just they're going with the vibes and the feels and the vibes, and they're getting knocked upside the head, and they're waking up the next day, and that dude is gone, and they're pregnant, and he was never to be found. Then I'm curious to know what things did you invest in that dating, courting, relationship process to give you insight that this man is actually worth a damn.
I can't relate with Jesus. I can't relate with Jesus.
I think two things happen with that. I think you have women that stay and try to change him. Like they figure it out that he's not that guy. But you have some women that try to change men, and it's a real problem that a lot of women have. And then I think you have men that lie and put up a front. We saw Nick Cannon sit on that couch and admit to being a manipulator and being able to turn on being the perfect guy for the woman. And then once he has her, and this is his words, once he has her, he's off to being toxic Nick. So a lot of times women are caught off guard or just misled into these situations with these men. But then I know me personally, I think what I think this is how you get to be 30 plus and single, because I don't stay long. Once I figure out it's not what I need it to be, then I'm gonna just move on. But I think
Or they're just attracting exactly who they are.
or that, yeah, for sure. There's definitely some piss poor women out there. I think there's a lot. I don't think every woman deserves the partnership that she thinks she does. But I think it's the man's responsibility to recognize that too. And that's why he has to stop uh generalizing women and putting in viewing them as all as the same thing or the same type, because we're not. And that's what I mean, the difference between the high functioning or high value and low functioning and low value, or desperate women that'll chase a man rather than one that's like, I'm actually looking for the right one for me. So if I'm not chasing you, or if I haven't expressed interest in you, or giving you to go, it ain't you. That don't make me a bitch. That don't make me playing hard to get.
My
That's
point proven.
just what it is. It's just not you. Now, that don't mean that I don't value friendship or communication or meeting new people, but we're not going to date.
That proves my point from earlier.
So let me ask you a question. So who do you lean on and who do you talk to when you are having either relationship, difficulties, or maybe you need that balancing sounding voice? Who is that person in your corner? Who's on your right
Um,
shoulder?
my sister, I have an older sister who's been
Your
married for
sister, okay.
17 years. And not only because she's been married, but obviously because we come from the same woman, right? So we have we share a thought process, and her being older than me and me having trust in that and me having trust in her wisdom and stuff like that, I consult with her because I think that is getting me, that keeps me aligned to in alignment to who I am as a person, and just gives me a fast track to clarity, because it's like I know if she's gonna know what I mean, but she's also gonna be honest with me about being wrong or right, and then she's also speaking from experience of being in partnership with someone else.
Okay.
And a
Is it fair
therapist.
to say? Is it fair to say that you have, positive male, figures in your life? I don't want to say role model, but like, stand up men that you respect, revere, and have some sort of semblance of what you would want or desire in a man or husband in this case, because obviously you're dating in a completely.
I think so. I think for me, like, my parents were not together most of my life. They were for 14 years before I got here, but they were great friends. So I have a lot of male friends that truly make me feel loved and cared for and looked out for, and that are honest and transparent with me about things, and just supportive overall. And I think seeing that, having that dynamic encourages me to find a partner that um like removing all the romance from partnership and more in aiming towards like having a close friend to do life with. And I
Why
think
So
not
that's
date
a good
one of those
example.
friends? Why not date one of those friends?
Because we're not compatible in every way, but I think I think the ability to maintain these relationships proves that it's not me that's difficult to be with, right? Or it's not a matter of somebody not being adequate, but it's like they might already have a mate, or we might have tried it once and it didn't work out, or we don't want the same type of relationship. Some men, I have a homeboy that he doesn't want a monogamous relationship. I don't think that makes him a bad person, but he can't be my man. You know what I mean? We're still good friends, but we don't want the same type of relationship. Every man I meet is not meant for me to date. I don't believe that one bit. And I think women short themselves in life by pursuing every man in that way.
Okay.
All right. I think we got to the point, man. Y'all gotta get y'all some sleep. Y'all old out here, man.
We
I'm
trying to
still
eat.
young, man. Y'all gotta speak for yourselves over there. I'm still young.
Yeah, you still fishing and throwing fish back.
It's okay. You
I
on
didn't
your way
listen.
though.
I didn't say if I was fishing or not.
You
You
fishing
on
and
your way.
throwing fish back.
We had a couple super chats came
Definitely
through.
throw some fish back. That's,
Harrison Davis, $5.
you got it.
Oh,
And
I forgot other people.
Holmes, $10. No doubt being single over 30. One can find happiness. However, women only seem to be happy over 30 when they can't lock down the one they actually wanted or standards too high. Delusion then becomes the pillow they sleep on.
We should have ran some of these
That's my
earlier.
opinion.
Don't be projecting.
$5 says marriage was not important to the other women. They knew he had kids and still had kids with him. This speaks to the quality of women.
I
They want to be
agree.
part of the
I
tribe.
agree with that.
I feel like some women feel like,
Big
hey,
love.
he can afford it, so they go for it.
Or they don't
Family
believe they
affair.
actually deserve it. Like we sleep on how fucked up people's self-esteem really is, and we find ways to justify accepting the minimum. Like, well, most men cheat anyway.
Some
Then
women
I'll
don't
hold
want to be
out.
wives, though. Some of them don't want to be exclusive. They
Or
don't want to be
maybe
wives.
they don't.
They don't want the responsibility of having to cook and clean. They don't want to
But
have to
then
be
they're just as
submissive. They just
guilty as not wanting as the man is for not wanting to marry a woman before he has kids. That's the same problem. Because you know it would be better for you to be married before you had children. So why wouldn't you do it?
see that's the thing I debate with, right? Because although I am a proponent of marriage, like I got married at 21, so I definitely am a supporter of marriage. However, this idea that marriage is objectively better, it's not something that I think can be like substantiated. It's great, like the idea of what marriage represents, which is the unity and the family unit being together. I think that's important. But marriage itself, in the times that we're having now, in a situation where there's no economic incentive to marry, you know, women are making just as much money as men are. There's not really as many incentives for either side to really get or stay married nowadays. So it's like there has to be I feel that in our generation there's going to have to be new ways developed of having a village or having a family, because I don't think marriage has sufficed up until now. We can keep talking about it and keep saying, yo, we need marriage to bring the family back, but I don't think it's like trying to put like a bag of rice bust open and you're trying to get all the rice back in the bag. Like we already passed that. The rice all over the floor.
But
like,
we're not, because
all
it's
these
the one thing we're not doing. We're not doing it. That's why it's not working.
No, we're doing it, and it's ending in divorce. People are still getting married, but the thing is that the marriages aren't working like at a high level, and so the people who are seeing the marriages not work and the people who experience the marriages not work are like, you know what, this isn't working. I'm gonna try another method. So you know, I think. And I disagree with something you said earlier. You said a lot of men are afraid to play the husband role. And I genuinely don't believe that's what it is. I just think that many men are afraid to play the husband role and not get a wife in return. And they're afraid of taking on the responsibility of husband, but not having the power of being husband. And I think because of how empowered women are now, I think a lot of women are very hesitant to give up that power, because submissiveness does require you to give up a certain level of power. And y'all in a position now where y'all pay your own bills, you getting your own money, you deciding when you want to wake up, what you want to wear, where you want to travel to. And I think for a lot of women, embracing being a wife and being saying, you know what, I have this power to do what I want, but I gotta give this up. I had to actually give this power to someone else that he can lead. I think a lot of women say that, but I think where the disconnect is happening between men and women, because men are saying like, they're not giving up that, they're not allowing me to take the lead. They're not giving me the opportunity.
Because you're not showing up in the right. You're not showing up in the right form.
But
in
look
order
at it,
to
right?
get a woman to do that willingly, because you don't want to have to take it from her or force it out of her. You want it to be willingly, and it needs to be it needs to be encouraged and influenced. It's not just because she's a woman, this is how she's supposed to act.
But that
No,
wasn't even
there
an
are different
issue.
ways.
And
You
then
have to
that's
be making my life
conditional
better.
love.
That wasn't
That's
even an
conditional.
issue. But that also wasn't an issue for men of the past. They didn't have to worry about it because women didn't have that power then. So if she wanted to be free, so to speak, marriage was the root. And so marriage was a great incentive for women. Like, yo, I
They
want to
were
get out my
also
parents'
marrying
house. I want to.
12-year-olds.
Well, I'm not
Let's see.
talking about those cases. I'm talking about adults, women marrying. I'm just saying, like, in the 80s and 70s, when women were getting married, the incentives were very different than the incentives are now. Now it's
I
like,
don't think you
well,
got to go a little further back to 80s and 70s.
Well, I mean, I
okay,
And the
guess
black
what
woman
I
has
guess
always
you're
been
right. I
working.
think
Let's
you're right.
get
I
that
think we can
straight.
go. I think you're right. I
so
think we can go a lot further back. But I'm
Black women
overall
have
just saying
always
that
had
the
to work.
power that women have now has created a different appetite in women, and women are not giving that power up. The women in the past didn't even have that power. So it's like, now that y'all got it, y'all not giving it up.
Yeah, because if what you're offering isn't better, why would we?
Well, the thing is, because of the power that y'all have to make the choices of your own, it's going to be very difficult for you to see someone else's choice as better. So if a man can come into your life and make better decisions than you, because you know what it's like to make decisions for yourself, there's still gonna be a level of doubt, like, well, I wouldn't have decided like that. I might have decided differently. So I don't know if I can trust the way he's making the decision because
But see,
I've
that's
been
why
doing
you're
it this
supposed to be
way.
doing. You have to vet people before you go. Y'all should think the same
Right.
initially.
But
yeah,
I don't
what
believe
I'm
in
saying
trying to
is,
change a woman's
but,
mind or a man's. Go ahead,
but what
Luis.
I'm saying is,
yeah,
look at the obstacle it creates for men, because now a man
Probably ain't
has
let nobody talk, is
convince
it?
yeah.
you leave.
Let me get in here for a second. Look,
Got it.
the reality is that the way that you framed it, Alicia, it seemed too conditional. And with that, I kind of go back to the mind frame of, I think that men today have to work 5 times harder than their grandfather to qualify for women who are 20 times worse than their grandmother.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? And sort of, we can't sit here and try to compare things apple to apple like these people on the same wavelength and line. Let's be honest. I grew up in a 2-parent household. I grew up in, I'm the oldest of 3, grew up in a 2-parent household. I come from a big family. A lot of people do not share that same sentiment. A lot of people don't grow up in a 2-parent family. We've had this conversation on King Talk, and we've had these conversations on Sundays. Should people who grew up in a 2-parent household marry or seriously date people who grew up in a single parent household?
I can see why
The
that's a question.
psychology, the doctrination, and the value systems are completely different. And although, they're cute or they're cute and they should do this and that, let's be honest, the programming behind these individuals are not aligned or conducive for long-term relationships, because no matter how much I show up as a man or how competent or confident I am, you're always going to reserve back to your foundational programming training, i.e., upbringing. That is the issue. You know what I'm saying? That is always going to go back and you're not adding that to the equation. We're having this conversation as if it's in a vacuum. And I hate to burst a lot of people that bubble, but that's not the case. You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of intricacies in terms of people's upbringing, religious backgrounds, beliefs or not. You know what I'm saying? People talk about marriage, but they don't even go to church. They don't even have God fearing. They don't even have a relationship with God. They don't have no sense or foundational principles. I keep going back to that, and I'm keep hammering that all night until somebody, wakes up.
But what
Those are
about
the
what I
things
said?
that ground.
What
Those are the things that ground people in their relationship.
Right,
People are
which is
so
why I just
easy to
said
walk
you should be
away.
with someone who thinks like you and who shares those same values as you. I didn't grow up in a 2-parent household, But I don't date men that don't have good relationships with their fathers. And I think that's because even though I didn't have that experience, I'm aware of the value of it. And I think even if you don't have the experience of being in a two-parent home, you can look at statistics and learn that it's valuable to do so. So then you can change your direction. I think religion is something that people should also agree on. I see people trying to make it work, but I think it's much more easier to just go find somebody in your culture and religion. Like, why are we not so specific about the way we go about finding and choosing a mate? Like, it shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't be this general thing. It shouldn't be 10 women to choose from. It should be hard. It should take a minute because you got to learn yourself first. And then you can decide who is going to work best with what you got. That I agree. I think that we don't have those conversations. I think people get married for the wrong reasons all the time, if not most of the time. And I think a lot of it is just ignoring these things that seem old, right? Like culture and your upbringing and how you were raised and what you value. Like, that shit matters.
Well, this is why premarital counsel is very important, leading up before that, because it allows you to have those uncomfortable conversations, and it allows somebody who's an unbiased third party person to bring up things that you guys might have not talked about or talked about but didn't really deep dive into those issues, right? Like, people think that, like, yeah, I vetted this person. You vetted them on the surface level.
And to only the extent that you can actually, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know what we don't know. So you don't know the questions.
But see, this is the thing about it. This is the thing about it. And I've said this before. People are much more picky and much more willing not to budge on the places that they go and eat at and the food that they elect to eat than they are about sharing their wombs or sharing the most intimate parts of their mind about how they think, what they feel, what things trigger them, what are they uncomfortable about, and where their insecurities lie. Everybody puts up a wall in the front like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good." You're not good. And it takes a bigger person to admit that you're not good. And it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. And we've said this on this panel many of times. And unfortunately, if you can't rely on your person to share and get emotionally naked and talk about the uncomfortable things, that relationship will not strive for the long run.
True.
All right, y'all. We're gonna lay this one to bed.
Yeah, that was good. Thanks for having me.
Very interesting dialogue.
Yeah, hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Catch us next Wednesday. We out.